Part 306. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3064. The strength of the mid-level stars in the galaxy, even in the central star field of the Milky Way, is by no means some small rice and shrimp with soy sauce. It is more than enough to open a small or medium-sized force. If there are some big people behind you to support you, becoming a medium or large power is not a dream. But when it comes to strength itself, the gap between the strength of the mid-level galaxy and the senior domain lord is not unobvious. The difference between cloud and mud. This receptionist always sees mid-level beings from the galaxy coming to visit him every few days. Everyone is respectful and wants to meet Lord Shensi directly, but almost all of them are conceited and ignorant. The person in front of me. I'm afraid it's no exception. So he laughed. Sir, our Shensi force has its own set of procedures. Who can meet with Master Shensi and who cannot meet with him is not something we and the receptionists can decide. Leda was stunned at first, and soon understood that the other party did not take Leda seriously. As someone who has been rejected countless times in the past, Leda is very familiar with this trick. But his current identity is the envoy of Yin Yang Dao. Even if he looks down on his current mid-level galactic strength, he must give Yin Yang Dao face, otherwise it will be spread in the future. He already has mastered Jia Yan's Yin Yang Dao, and he can still be in the senior domain. Suffering a loss among the main force and losing face, wouldn't it make Lord Jia Yan unhappy? When Leda thought of this, his face suddenly became normal and he said, "What you said is just an ordinary mid-level fellow in the galaxy. I have just said that I come from the Yin and Yang Dao. As a receptionist, you should know that some forces cannot, you must be offended." Having said this, the receptionist looked slightly moved. Ordinary forces, even if they become angry when being looked down upon by themselves, will bow their heads in the face of reality. Anyone who dares to be so stubborn and claim to cannot offend the forces is either arrogant or really has some skills. Okay, Sir Envoy, I will pass on your message, but it is up to the handlers around Lord Shensi whether they arrange for you to meet with him or not. Good. At this point, the atmosphere became tense and Leda resigned from the diplomatic service. Soon, the news from the diplomatic department of Shensi Force went in several major directions. First of all, it is naturally reported to the Intelligence Processing Department, and someone will conduct an investigation and research on the Yin and Yang Dao. The second step is to report to Master Sheng Xie's team. As for whether the team conveys the information to Master Sheng Xie, that is the responsibility of the special workers there. It sounds complicated, but in fact it is just a routine operation. The diplomatic department has always been the place where major forces see the most weird things. Although strong people who have cultivated to the level of extraordinary strength will have some brains, but with a huge population base, there will always be some people who speak out, are pretentious, or are unhappy and are looking for death. Instead of believing that the so-called Yin Yang Dao is a force that can compete with the evil forces, it is better to believe that the other party is just trying to gain a sense of existence by the evil forces. Because the probability is greater. It didn't take long for the information about the Yin Yang Dao to be compiled. Speaking of it, the word Yin and Yang Dao is mostly passed down by word of mouth, but probably only a few people have heard it. But if you really want to collect it, you can still collect some information like stars. In that backward star region in the north where birds don't lay eggs, is there a Yin-Yang sect? Does it claim to be practicing Yin-Yang Dao? After receiving the intelligence reply, everyone in the diplomatic department was dumbfounded. However, the information about Onmyedo is definitely not the case. There are also those from other places in the central galaxy. It is rumored that in the area near the middle, there is an outsider who calls himself the Zerg Queen Force. There is also a legend about the Yin and Yang Dao. It was created by the person who brought the barren land. This person had great strength decades ago. Approximately, domain lord level, and once caused a bloody storm in the area currently occupied by the Zerg Queen. This piece of information is refreshing. Everyone in the diplomatic department looked solemnly. Don't be afraid of domain lord level strength. Senior territory lords and territory lord level are still two different worlds. As for ordinary territory lords, I have several territory lord levels in the evil force. The power of just one territory lord does not need to be taken seriously at all. But having a territory lord, although not as arrogant as the other party, is still worthy of a little courtesy. Since he wants to see our lord, let's take a look at the lord's free schedule. This group of diplomats did not think about the possibility that the founder of Yin and Yang Dao decades ago would now advance to the domain lord level. Because without even thinking about it, it's impossible. Those who entered the domain lord level in the early decades now want to step into the senior domain lord level? It's simply a fantasy. If the territory lord level was so easy to improve in strength, the galaxy would not be in a situation where most of the senior territory lords are the bosses of one party. Available in 25 days? And just a 10-minute meeting. When Leda received this reply in the hotel where he was staying, his face turned dark. The sinister expression almost made him curse on the spot. This ascendant evil force is indeed an existence that is looked down upon by dogs. It is true that people in the galaxy's central star field may not know your specific strength. But a dignified junior territory lord was rejected by the influence of the senior territory lord. Even if the person who doesn't know is not guilty, it is definitely a certain degree of insult. Thinking of this, Leda looked deeply at the diplomatic courier who came to deliver the letter. "Sir, I want to meet with the staff of your Ministry of Foreign Affairs again immediately. Is it possible to arrange it?" The delivery man looked worried. Working in the Foreign Service is extremely difficult. There will always be all kinds of things, and there will be all kinds of beings that he can't afford to get angry at. He is just a small star. Hearing this, the delivery man thought that the other party was like the many outsiders he had served and wanted to waste more time. "Sorry, there are rules for this kind of thing. Except for diplomatic envoys from special forces and forces that have signed the Friendship Treaty, all other visitors to the diplomatic department will only have a second chance to enter the diplomatic department in 10 days. Leda took a deep breath. He also knows that such regulations are for work convenience. Because foreign affairs are very busy, especially for such a big power, everyone who comes has something to do. If every envoy blocks the door every day, the impact on the work will be infinite. But are you the same as other messengers? Not good at all? The task assigned to him by Master Jia Yan was not something he could just drag on here casually. If he can't handle such a small thing, his position as Lord Jia Yan's right-hand man, which he claims to be, is precarious. The noble power is a bit too bullying. Saying that, Leda silently refused to entangle with the delivery man in front of him, but pushed away his body, flew into the starry sky, and headed towards the diplomatic department of the Shensi force. The stellar delivery man behind him had a sneer in his eyes. He knew that this was another foreign messenger who wanted to cause trouble. He would not see 10 or 8 such existences in a year, but there would be at least several. But without exception, there is no good ending. Leda flew to the outside of the evil Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I saw that this place was still bustling with traffic and people in the starry sky. The various rules and regulations set by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the evil forces are reasonable, otherwise the number of people here may increase dozens of times. But now that Leda is standing in the perspective and identity of an outsider, he naturally scorns such rigid rules. "Sir, please present your diplomatic credentials." The 2 astral levels at the door stepped forward to intercept Leda. Here we can see how powerful the Shensi force is. A star who holds a high position in the Yin-Yang sect is nothing more than a courier and a guard in the Shensi force. It can be seen that the Shensi force is not easy to deal with. Generation. Leda's eyes flickered, but he showed his diplomatic credentials. The star took the technological equipment and swept it away, and his expression changed. "Sorry, sir, your ID was used yesterday. According to the rules of our diplomatic department, it will take 10 days before you can have a chance to enter again. Please go back to the diplomatic hotel and wait for news." Leda looked at the guard silently, suppressed his anger and said calmly, "Last time, the receptionist of your Ministry of Foreign Affairs and I talked a little less. Please go and inform me that the force to which this envoy belongs is by no means a small force. It is not easy for evil forces to mislead themselves." Hearing this, the guard seeing had a professional smile on his face, but the sarcasm was clearly visible in his eyes. He said, "Yes, I will talk about it later, but the rules are rules. Please don't break them, sir, otherwise I won't be able to do anything." Leighton nodded. He had nothing to worry about with these servant-like doormen. Retreating to the side, I saw one of the guards slowly walking towards the dark side of the guard booth and taking out the communicator. I don't know what the other party said, but he walked out again in less than a minute. He still wore a professional smile and said, "I'm sorry, Sir Envoy, as mentioned above, this matter has not been discussed. Please forgive me, Sir Envoy." After being pushed around several times, even for a strong man like Leda who has a stable mind and temper, the fire in his heart suddenly started to burn. "You don't need to apologize. It seems that you are destined to become an evil force and do not want this envoy to complete his mission properly. Then I will leave my words here. Today I won't be able to see the senior officials of your Ministry of Foreign Affairs, or the high-level officials of the evil forces. I won't leave. I, the Yin-Yang Dao, show my face. If you dare to attack me, be prepared to be punished by my Yin-Yang Dao." After saying this, Leda gritted his teeth and made perhaps the craziest decision in his life. Buzz. I saw Leda's huge body moving its claws. A blue halo visible to the naked eye flashed out from the tip of the claw, directly covering the entire huge diplomatic department. Thousands of kilometers of shady foreign affairs department were completely shrouded in such power. For a moment, everyone was silent and looked at the place where the power burst out. How dare someone dare to use force on the territory of Shensi? Court death? Wrong. This is not how you seek death. Could it be? Did you see any good show? Suddenly, the bustling crowd paused. Some strong men's minds changed. They looked at the person who made the move and stopped planning to enter the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the evil force. At this moment, the entire staff of the diplomatic department of Shensi Force felt their hearts skip a beat. Those who can become staff of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, even civilian workers, have no less than stellar strength, and their perception of power is absolutely keen. What's more, it was such an unabashed and unscrupulous move to trap them in some kind of spiritual power. Who? So bold? Blocking the diplomatic department of my evil force? This kind of behavior is no different from starting a war. What bastard did it? Humph, the Foreign Affairs Department represents the face of the evil forces. Today, someone did such an act without punishment. Where is the face of the evil forces? Suddenly, everyone in the entire diplomatic department looked worried. Leda's heart was pounding. Before he could think about whether his behavior was appropriate or too impulsive, he suddenly felt that he had used the power of the formation to trap two powerful auras like a rainbow in Shensi's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The terrifying power. Junior, I am just a middle-level person in the galaxy. Is it arrogant to do such a thing? You are a person who came out of this small area and is so brave. In no particular order, the two voices flew directly not far from the gate of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and stood in front of the power of the blue formation, their eyes locked on the uncertain Leda. I've met two adults. This villain has given this criminal a serious warning, but he insists on going his own way. I also ask these two adults to capture this person and bring him back to prison. You will be able to see the genuine version after refreshing in 10 minutes. Thousands of kilometers of shady Foreign Affairs Department were completely shrouded in such power. For a moment, everyone was silent and looked at the place where the power burst out. How dare someone dare to use force on the territory of Shensi? Court death? Wrong. This is not how you seek death. Could it be? Did you see any good show? Suddenly, the bustling crowd paused. Some strong men's minds changed. They looked at the person who made the move and stopped planning to enter the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the evil force. At this moment, the entire staff of the diplomatic department of Shensi Force felt their hearts skip a beat. Those who can become staff of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs can. Even civilian workers have strength no less than stellar level, and their perception of power is absolutely keen. What's more, it was such an unabashed and unscrupulous move to trap them in some kind of spiritual power. Who? So bold? Blocking the diplomatic department of my evil force? This kind of behavior is no different from starting a war. What bastard did it? Humph, the Foreign Affairs Department represents the face of the evil forces. Today, someone did such an act without punishment. Where is the face of the evil forces? Suddenly, everyone in the entire diplomatic department looked worried. Leda's heart was pounding. Before he could think about whether his behavior was appropriate or too impulsive, he suddenly felt that he had used the power of the formation to trap two powerful auras like a rainbow in Shensi's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The terrifying power. Junior, I am just a middle-level person in the galaxy. Is it arrogant to do such a thing? You are a person who came out of this small area and is so brave. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3065. During speaking. The two Shensi Foreign Ministry entities blocking the entrance to the shady scene have already received the intelligence content of the person in front of them. They couldn't help but open their brains with frosty faces and took a look at the information. Soon, the two people's eyes met, and when they looked at Leda, their eyes were already sinister and cruel. One of them, like an insect, was the peak of the middle-level galaxy. He silently came to the light of the waste chain. Remove this power from me, he said coldly. Leda's heart skipped a beat, but he resisted the urge to obey, and said with the same calm expression, I'm sorry, first arrange for me to meet with Lord Shensi. Ignorant of good and evil. After saying this, the opponent directly raised the insects thousands of feet and struck the formation of light at the front of the gate with 1 foot. In his view, this spiritual force that locks the entire building has more symbolic meaning than practical effect. I'm afraid it could easily fall apart with 1 blow. Peng. And a scene that shocked him happened. When his feet landed on the azure formations blocking light, the light suddenly shone brightly, and his defense power directly increased by several levels. He seemed to be on the verge of collapse, but he blocked his attack head-on. The insect creature's expression became solemn, it raised its eyes again, and looked at the territory lord level superior behind him. Immediately at the other's signal, all of its thousands of feet were lifted up in an instant, launching a ground-breaking strike. This time, he was really angry. The attack was filled with flying sand and rocks, a large amount of interstellar wind was generated, and the shock wave was vast and spread out. The shady story has been blown away a lot. Boom. However, what is unbelievable is that even with such a blow, the Azure Circle's spiritual power only made a slightly overwhelmed sound, and it was almost impossible to fully withstand the attack. Isn't this enough? For a moment, the two senior officials of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs looked extremely ugly. You know, they feel the flow of energy present. Although the other party is controlling the activities of the Blue Circle, there is no trace of mental power to continue to support it. This means that the Yin-Yang Dao messenger is just the first wave of blue energy that consumes power in front of them. Within the aperture, not even half of the effort was expended thereafter. This little power has created a strong man who is stronger than him on the surface. How can he not collapse in one blow? What kind of method is this? You too, I have said that I, the yin and yang Dao, have endless methods, and I am definitely not someone you can provoke. You should just let Lord Shensi meet with me. Leda found that the opponent could not break the circle of the formation, and he felt calm for a moment. This is also the first time that he has used the power of the formation that he jointly studied with Jia Yan in actual combat. The effect was unexpected. After all, it is not surprising that Jia Yan can be used in actual combat. After all, he is also a lower-level domain lord. But he was only a middle-level player in the galaxy. He had been a guinea pig before, and his understanding of the battle path was far inferior to Jia Yan, and even vaguely inferior to Edisha, which also caused a serious lack of self-confidence. Watch now. Actually, it's not that bad. Yin Yang Dao, are you seeking death? Before he finished speaking, he saw the domain lord level being walking away calmly. Every word and deed of this person has the power to move the heaven and earth. The entire starry sky creates a mighty force with his words, and a drowsy power ripples deep in the minds of all living beings. He is a strong person who is good at mental power. And it's still a domain lord level. Leda's expression turned ugly again. The power of Yin Yang Dao and Formation Dao have no protective means against mental power, or rather, he has not yet mastered it. In fact, there is none. Jia Yan's own natural mental power is astonishing, and he has an extremely tough resistance to mentally strong people. This has also led to his failure to develop mental defense methods for Yin and Yang Dao. As for the power of the array, the old turtle formation doctor has naturally taken these into consideration, but so far, he has not been able to combine the formation path with the yin and yang path, which means that Leda cannot do it. This must be the top minister of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Shensi Force. As Your Excellency, you said that I am seeking death in Yin Yang Dao, but are you saying this on behalf of the Shensi Force? But Leda refused to give in at all, his eyes were burning, and he looked at the domain lord level. He has many other methods. The magical weapons and other items given to him personally by Lord Jia Yan were all his behind-the-scenes work. These backhands can defend against senior domain masters, and they will not be intimidated by just regional masters now. That domain lord level existence had a flash of surprise in his eyes. Faced directly with a territory lord level envoy, this middle-level messenger from the galaxy was so unscrupulous and spoke arrogantly. It shows that the other party may really rely on you. He thought for a while and said, of course, these words do not represent the promotion of evil forces, they are just what I said myself. On the contrary, Your Excellency, you are the envoy of Yin and Yang Dao, but now you have done something like attacking the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of our promotion of evil forces. Behavior, do you represent the Yin and Yang Tao in this matter? The two were at loggerheads. If it had been anyone else, or if Leda had been slightly cower and fearful, the other party would have already launched a sudden attack. But Leda is too confident. The attitude is also extremely harsh. When something goes wrong, there must be a monster. As the Minister of Foreign Affairs, he is a very skilled diplomat. Although it is difficult to swallow this resentment, he is still willing to swallow a little anger before the investigation comes to light. Diplomacy and trivial matters. This is also a common saying among the powerful civilization forces in the universe. Or even worse. Unexpectedly, a large number of powerful civilizations or forces were besieged to death just because a few diplomatic relations were not properly handled. There are also those who have been kicked into pieces because they failed to see clearly the opponent's background and strength, and were eventually destroyed. The rising evil forces did not want to follow in his footsteps, so they calmed down in such a tense situation. What I represent. Seeing that the other party wanted to slap the hat on him, Leda's expression flickered a few times, and he said bluntly, of course it is my Yin Yang Dao. Even if your power looks down on the middle level strength of this galaxy, you can't look down on my Yin Yang Dao's face. As the envoy of Yin and Yang Dao, I naturally have the unshirkable responsibility to let you all appreciate my integrity of Yin and Yang Dao. Integrity. The person in charge of the Domain Lord level evil promoting force looked at the blue dilemma power in front of him and said, "Okay, we will try our best to meet your request. Can you unlock this power now? Please also, Your Excellency, please don't cause trouble to the point where I have to take action myself." Leighton nodded, moved his paws, and the circle formation suddenly loosened. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, this magical array of light shrank into a small blue ring again and merged into the tip of its claws. Very amazing technique. But that's all. In the entire galaxy, there are countless forces, large and small, and various methods of cultivation. There are countless seemingly magical methods, such as the sand of the Ganges. This method of trapping must be one of them. No one could see more. But the mid-level peak powerhouse of the galaxy who had attacked the power of the formation couldn't help but take a few more glances at the energy integrated into his claws. "Your Excellency, come with me." The Domain Lord walked up to Leda majestically. He finally got what he wanted and felt the creature in front of him, and there was a slight hint of flinching. It is normal for a galaxy intermediate to be nervous when being approached by a territory lord. This made him very happy. Otherwise, he would have to wonder whether the middle-level being in the galaxy in front of him was played by someone with a higher level than him. Otherwise, how could I be so calm and relaxed? Leda also did not doubt him, and with this senior official entered the shady story of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. "Sir Envoy, can you tell us about your Yin and Yang Dao? Maybe the evil forces here are ignorant. The Yin and Yang Dao that you know may not be the same force as the Yin and Yang Dao that you are in." When they came to a secluded place, the foreign minister's expression changed slightly and he seemed quite friendly. His speech also became very respectful. Entering the formal diplomatic process, the other party is a veteran, so he naturally enters the role instantly. Leda's eyebrows moved, and he was about to speak out the rough details of Onmyado's current situation. "In front of the envoys of all nations, I, Shensi, want to ruin my face." He doesn't need to say anything. "I, Shensi, declare that I will kill him directly." A mighty wave of sound, flowing unimpeded from far away in the sky, struck like morning bells and evening drums in the depths of the souls of several people. Next, Leda's expression changed directly. This power transmitter is extremely powerful. It can even be said to be terrifying. It felt very similar to when he and Master Jia Yan were reunited in the black hole area. A senior domain lord level existence. Promote evil. He looked ugly. The expressions of the two supervisors opposite also changed. Lord Shensi actually received the information about this place and even spoke out personally. This. The person on the other side quickly raised his gaze coldly and looked directly at Leda, who was raising his head. Boom. Immediately, in the presence of the audience, Leighton knocked over the luxurious tables and chairs in front of him. In the entire conference room, large pieces of strong books were flying, and the tables and chairs exploded like cannonballs. He chose to strike first. As a mid-level star in the galaxy, he chose to fight against two opponents who were not weaker than him at all, and even seemed to be stronger than him. This is just like a typical example of overestimating one's abilities. Courage is commendable, but courage alone is not enough. "I'm sorry, Your Excellency, Ambassador Leda. Lord Shensi has personally asked you to be executed. We have no right to deny it. Please go and die." The Domain Lord level senior official of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was as cold as ice. A huge force suddenly appeared out of thin air and enveloped the entire office. Even though Leda was prepared, he only felt dizzy for a while, and his mind quickly fell into a brief blank. You know, the level gap between the two sides is too big. And taking advantage of the opportunity, the high-ranking official at the top of the middle rank of the galaxy lit up the attack light with thousands of insects' feet, and took the opportunity to strike Leta's body with a shock like a swimming dragon. This is a battle, and it is impossible to tell you what is fair. The two powerful men, who were obviously stronger than Leta, took action as soon as they were told, and were completely unreasonable. Defense formation. Buzz. After a moment of confusion, Leta got rid of the opponent's mental interference, and the tip of his claws quickly swept out a defensive formation that was the same as before. Catcha. The insect strongman who attacked from the air stepped on the ring with thousands of feet, bursting out a shockwave of blue and feet, and the starry sky in the entire office was filled with air waves. It is indeed a very strong defensive force. The expression of the insect creature changed. When he didn't take any serious action just now, he thought it was because of his mercy. Now that he tried his best, he still couldn't break the blue ring, which showed that the opponent really had a defensive capability that could withstand his offensive. But so what? He is not alone. There is a commander behind him, and the commander is even more powerful than him. You two, please don't make any mistakes. You don't have to listen to what Shang Xie said. When this master of yin and yang comes, I can also say some good words for you too. Leta turned over and avoided another attack from the two strong men, and said with a solemn expression. Still talking nonsense to deceive the public. The domain lord had already paid attention to Leta's words and no longer thought about it. His mental power stirred up again, and Leta felt himself shaking all over, as if he had entered some kind of new world involuntarily. In this new world, he returned to the time when he set sail with the Zerg Queen and others. During the original trip, everyone was in high spirits, as if a bright future was ahead of them. Everyone knows that the central star field of the Milky Way is a paradise far more advanced than the starry sky back home, and full of opportunities. Leta was also praising him, until he heard someone mention, a certain fool, who offended the black sheep, is still practicing. He trembled all over, looked at the place of reclusion, and felt the power of this person again, and then he suddenly came back to his senses as if he had been punched. The owner of that power is Lord Jia Yan. This is Lord Jia Yan. But Lord Jia Yan, why haven't you reached the middle level of the galaxy yet? His expression changed wildly, as if something hadn't occurred to him. Aha! Immediately, his eyes collided with a pair of eyes in the retreat place without any warning. They were a pair of compound eyes that only belonged to insect creatures. Countless compound eyes looked at Leta, causing his entire divine sea to convulse with excitement. Wrong. Very wrong. We are not on the way to the central star field of the Milky Way now. He should have already reached the central star field of the Milky Way. And there are many adventures in the central star field of the Milky Way. The central star field of the Milky Way is also different from what these high-spirited people here thought. Compared with their hometown, it is even more cruel and bloody. The power of the Zerg Queen, there were heavy casualties afterwards. There was even a time when I was scattered, looking aimlessly for opportunities in the galaxy. Correct. It's these eyes. This compound eye was encountered in the black hole area. Suddenly, Leta remembered everything. It's the influence of Master Jia Yan's strength. On his claws, formations of light suddenly lit up, and behind him, the subspace cracked, and a hammer magical weapon began to break through the sky like the belated final protagonist, slowly descending into his dream. This man is extremely mentally strong, but he miscalculated. No matter how exquisite his mental illusion is, his biggest mistake and miscalculation was his attempt to simulate Master Jia Yan. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3066. Because Lord Jia Yan is far more powerful than he imagined. If so, there are so many flaws, how can he trap me? In reality, seeing that Leda was instantly caught in the illusion of his own mental power, the Domain Lord snorted coldly. A mere mid-level star, or a mid-level star who has just been promoted. How can you turn the world upside down in your own hands? My subordinates, I will take down this man who knows nothing about heaven and earth. The mid-level peak person in the galaxy smiled ferociously and jumped towards Leda. His feet lit up with the brilliance that only belongs to the strong, intending to hit Leda to pieces with one blow. It was at this time. Behind Leda, the subspace seemed to crack open silently, and a hammer-like weapon shaped like an ancient servant shot out of the depths of the subspace slowly and quickly. With quick eyes and quick hands, Leda grabbed the hammer that was fired. When the collision between the two mid-level galactic powerhouses was without any tricks, and a thrilling and terrifying power rippled through the office. Among those who were watching the excitement outside but had not retreated, their minds went blank for a while, and they felt that the collision of forces was so terrifying. With the emergence of the hammer weapon, Leda's strength skyrocketed. In a head-to-head encounter, he directly beat the top mid-level warriors in the galaxy to retreat. What you are holding is not a weapon, this is an ordinary piece of metal. Just when Leda gained the advantage and was about to further expand the results, the voice of the powerful Domain Lord came to his ears. His consciousness suddenly surged again, and he was lost for a moment. Although he knew that the other party was mentally strong and he had to be careful not to be controlled by his mental power, he was stronger than Leda and it was impossible to defend against him. Snort. Leda staggered, and was kicked away by an insect foot from the mid-level peak powerhouse in the galaxy who reacted. It hit the office wall hard, causing the entire dark wall to collapse, causing panic among the people next door. The mid-level star of the galaxy fought against two stronger experts, and they fought vigorously, which simply exceeded everyone's expectations. Array defense. Leda's eyes were strangely cold, and he waved his claws and cast 3 defense formations in succession on the surface of his body. This yin and yang dao is really tricky. The Domain Lord looked at the hammer in Leda's hand, and then looked at Leda's action of putting the formation on his body, and felt that he had no way to start. Everyone knows that the magic weapon hammer is by no means an easy thing. If he hadn't seen the extraordinary power of the hammer at a glance and let his consciousness invade the other person's mind, his subordinates might have encountered disaster in an instant. This guy, the being at the peak of the middle level of galaxy, looked at the surface of his body. It was full of cracks, and the moment he touched the magic weapon, he fell into the terrifying positive and negative forces of emotion. This extremely violent power also revealed a very crazy anger, making it difficult for him to use the powerful resilience to heal injuries. Master Sheng Xie's order cannot be reversed, so we will continue. The Territory Lord's expression became cold, he looked at Leda carefully and took half a step forward. This meant that he was going to take matters into his own hands. For a Territory Lord level, don't think that he is a strong person in terms of mental power. He will be weak in frontal combat. In fact, the strength of a Domain Lord with strong mental power in a head-on confrontation is a huge headache. If they really want to take action, ordinary strong people will be tricked to death by their methods. Leda took a deep breath. Is that person just now Your Excellency Sheng Xie? Can I think that your forces are attacking my yin and yang dao? The two people opposite did not speak for the time being. Instead, the voice from before sounded vaguely. Yes, I am Shenxi. If you are a little outsider who enters my Shenxi realm and destroys you, I have my own reasons to kill you. Not only that, I will also find opportunities to eradicate the yin and yang dao behind you. Leda was not frightened, nor did he show any sign of being shocked by it. He nodded calmly, and before the other party launched an attack, he asked in the direction of the sound, I wonder if you are sheltering a Domain Lord named Master of Vessels? This envoy came here to solve the problem. As for the master of the vessel, now that I understand the tyranny of the ascending evil forces, you must not be able to let go of the matter of my yin and yang dao killing the vessel. Huh? Utensil. Sheng Xie's voice seemed to be far away, vaguely approaching here. The other party still attaches great importance to the domain lord level among his subordinates. After hearing the news about the vessel, he finally wanted to formally intervene in the matter. Yes, Master Utensil went to the sect under this yin-yang dao to cause trouble a few days ago. The big shots of the sect have already killed him. With a good neighborly and friendly attitude, this time he ordered this envoy to come for peace talks. It seems that you have been promoted to evil. The forces no longer want to be friendly. Leda didn't mean to stall for time. But after the meeting, he still remembered his identity as an envoy and explained the business clearly. Starting a fight without clear explanation is against the work attitude of an envoy. Your yin and yang dao killed the vessel? Very good. The master of the vessel was originally an expert in weapon refining invited by my Shensi force. Since you, the yin and yang dao, don't care about my affection for Shensi, there is no need to exist. First of all, you, the so-called messenger, just die as interest. Waves of rising evil sounds gradually changed from peaceful to deafening to earth-shattering. The other party's voice is getting closer and closer. Leda calmly took out a formation-shaped light group, looked at it, but did not use it directly. Instead, he raised his magic weapon and attacked the spiritual power domain in front of him. Good fellow, Lord Shensi will be here in a moment, but you still dare to attack a domain lord. The domain master felt baffled. Is this galaxy intermediate not afraid of death, or is he so bold that in such a desperate situation, he dares to take the initiative to attack someone who is stronger than him? Don't look down on the territory, Lord. He shouted with a cold face, and along with this violent shout, there was a visible mental shock in the office. A large amount of mental power and brain influence spread to the surface of Leda's body, but it only caused ripples in the formation defense and was unable to penetrate it. As the two formation defenses burst open, Leda also rushed to the front of the strong man. Facing Leda, who was approaching the city, the opponent didn't even raise his arms. The strength gap between the two sides was too big. He didn't believe that Leda could still defeat the domain lord with the mid-level galaxy. Buzz. A mental force that had been brewing for a long time struck again, causing Leda's whole body to sway and twitch like a severe injury. At the same time, the heavy hammer in Leda's hand also carried two forces, positive and negative, and attacked the domain lord level powerhouse fiercely. The layers of defensive formation mental power on the surface of his body were shattered by the impact of the mental power, and fell in all directions like dazzling starlight. Under the dazzling attack and defense, the existence of the middle-level peak of the galaxy came to Leda's side silently at some time. Thousands of feet turned into the most powerful attack, and he was about to hit Leda directly with one blow. Kill. To make matters worse, the so-called ascension of evil suddenly arrived here with the power of brainwaves. The unparalleled power of the senior domain master enveloped the entire Ministry of Foreign Affairs, causing the vast starry sky to tremble with overwhelming force. The starry sky shattered. Dead end. For Leda, who was surrounded, the three-party siege and the individual strength of each one far exceeded him, it was already a situation of no life or death. However, Leda was neither sad nor happy. Let the insect creature imprint thousands of feet on the surface of its body, and saw a large number of formations light up, then shatter, and then attack the body of Dalai Tower, spurting out extremely bloody blood. And his hammer attack was majestic, withstanding the pressure of a domain lord level spiritual powerhouse, it hit the surface of the opponent's body directly. Domain lord level, you can't even touch. The other party had a lot of time to do. Although he was shocked by the terrifying strength that this mid-level star burst out in an instant, the gap in levels was so disappointing that he was not afraid of Leda's close approach at all. Seeing this, Leda suddenly had a look of determination on his face. I don't look down on the territory lord, but you and I underestimating the yin and yang Dao is your biggest mistake. After his heartbeat began to spin rapidly, he looked at the yin-yang Tao weapon hammer in his hand. This hammer is based on the magic weapon hammer he got from Jia Yan in the world of creation, and Jia Yan rebuilt it for him. After these years of mastering and becoming familiar with it, he has developed a feeling of life and death with this hammer. No one knows better than him how amazing the power this hammer contains when using the power of Yin and Yang Dao, and supplemented by Jia Yan, a forger with the strength of a late-level domain lord, to create this object. It is no problem to let him use it all the way to the domain lord level. But today. Sorry, I wanted to see more powerful scenery with you. Now, in order to maintain the majesty of Yin Yang Dao, it can only be sacrificed. Leda's eyes suddenly became sharp. Looking at the spiritual domain master with a joking look, he suddenly let out a shout that shook the world. Burst. With admiration and ridicule, I looked at the spiritual power domain master who was attacking me with all his strength at the mere mid-level galaxy existence. When Leda roared this sound, his expression suddenly changed. The person who was approaching the Ministry of Foreign Affairs with an even more terrifying aura was approaching the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. In an instant, he felt that some kind of great terror was coming, and made the choice not to get closer, but to retreat violently. However, the top mid-level star of the galaxy who was going all out to attack Leda did not react and was still preparing tirelessly for the next attack. The moment the magic weapon hammer came into contact with the spiritual power domain master, the world seemed to suddenly become silent. The picture pauses and everything is suspended, as if time has lost its meaning. Suddenly, this pause suddenly expanded, and everything on the contrary became like fast forward. I saw a crack appearing from the contact surface of the giant magic weapon hammer, and then indescribable power was revealed from it, and then spread along the starry sky, swallowing the body of the domain lord-level powerhouse. Bear. The unimaginable power overwhelmingly turned the spiritual power domain master into dust. He felt something was wrong in the later stage, and the mental defense he exerted with all his strength could not even block the power of the explosion for an instant. Maybe a domain lord who specializes in physical defense can withstand such power, but unfortunately, he is not a defensive type. The mid-level peak powerhouse of the galaxy who attacked Leda finally reacted belatedly, and made the right move in an instant with a shocked look on his face. He stepped back and retreated, trying to get out of the explosion's reach. Everything within 1,000 kilometers was turned into powder, and this area was exactly the size of an office. Being able to limit the power to such a small area to the greatest extent, and causing almost no fatal damage to himself, this shows that Leda is worthy of the name of the second strongest practitioner of Onmyoto so far. The power of the formations he has mastered has been greatly improved in this battle. In addition, he is also the subject of Jia Yan's test. I am afraid that in terms of overall technical ability, he will not be worse than Edisha, and may even be stronger. The main direction of the explosion was towards the location of the mentally powerful person, and the mid-level galaxy attacking from Leda's side was not affected to the greatest extent. This also allowed him to narrowly escape death. Covered in fire and carrying a series of heat waves, he rushed out of the scope of the explosion. What kind of method is this? The other party's face was extremely sinister, and at the same time he felt extremely shocking injuries all over his body. Escaping from the explosion affected him, his remaining energy was drained, and he was almost at the point of exhaustion. He couldn't understand. People outside are even more incomprehensible. Ming had just felt that the foreign envoy inside was surrounded by two senior Shensi diplomatic officials who were far more powerful than him, and was almost in a desperate situation. Unexpectedly, things turned around in the blink of an eye. The dignified domain lord was destroyed by some kind of instrument sacrificed by the yin-yang envoy upon meeting him. The middle-level peak of the galaxy who survived by chance turned into the one who fled in a panic. The world is so magical, anything can happen. However, many people present, especially those belonging to the Shensi forces, still expressed their disbelief at the fate of the foreign envoy, saying that it was absolutely impossible for him to remain unharmed. In any other situation, it would be fine. Using mysterious means to kill the domain lord, and trying every means possible, there would be no chance of escape. But it's different now. Lord Shensi is here in person. If he can be allowed to leave in a swaggering manner, Shensi's forces can be disbanded. Sir Shensi, this person must be killed. Poof. While many people were watching the show in the outside world, the middle-level peak existence of the galaxy flashed away from the heat wave of the explosion, rushed to a towering figure retreating to one side, and knelt down instantly instead. He was so angry that he cried and begged. After saying that, he could no longer hold on, closed his eyes, and fell into a coma. Boom 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 boom. In the fierce flames, the magnificent shockwave miraculously did not affect Leta's body too much. He silently looked at the place where the hammer disappeared, with a hint of sadness in his eyes. Finally, he sighed, his expression became resolute, and he walked calmly towards the outside world where the shockwave was surging. At this moment, an overwhelming momentum came from the world in front of him. Junior, suffer death. This momentum was so powerful that as soon as Pu appeared, Leta felt like he was in catastrophe, as if he was like an insignificant ant in front of the person who took action. Promote evil. Leta thought of this name directly in his mind, but immediately stopped thinking about it and immediately took countermeasures. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3067. Your Highness Shensi, my name is. Saying quickly, Leta's whole body was filled with energy, and bursts of blue light suddenly appeared around his body. The hammer that had just exploded contained power, and it quickly regrouped in the center of his claws. It was like about half of the positive and negative explosive power that had just exploded, retracted back into Leta's hand. This is after the magic weapon explodes, the power of the array is used to pull the power back to the center of the claw. Even Jia Yan didn't know about this method, and it was a skill that Leta was currently researching. Rita. Buzz. The starry sky is filled with radiance, and a heavenly force is under the hood, which makes people feel like a disaster is imminent. Shang Xie, who is a senior domain lord level being, is far more powerful than ordinary domain lords, and even a casual attack cannot be resisted by ordinary people. It turns out that Leta is also an irresistible person. But he is the second master of Onmyedo with unlimited means. The bursting power of the magic weapon was pulled back by the formation, and then spewed out with overwhelming force. Leta's claws were visibly broken into pieces, but he remained unfazed and looked calm. Boom. Shang Xie's eyes twitched, and he carefully observed the place below where the surging force exploded. He saw that the black curtain of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs below was hit by his massive blow, and the whole fell into ruins, with countless death auras emerging from the inside. However, he did not read the aura of the being who killed his domain lord. Not dead? Impossible. Just the middle level of galaxy. Groan. In the moment of uncertainty, the monstrous power below surged out, violently spitting out a huge wave, forcefully rushing away the energy he swept down, creating a gap. The so-called emissary of the Yin Tao calmly followed the cracked gap, rose into the sky, and looked at him Shang Xie with an indifferent expression. Rita. Shang Xie instantly fell into some unspeakable emotion of horror. He felt that this Yin and Yang Dao was probably no ordinary character. Even a messenger was so amazing. The possibility of Yin and Yang Dao masters who could rival or even be stronger than himself was very high. Yes, Leta, Your Excellency Shensi, you are attacking this envoy because you want to start a war with my Yin and Yang Dao, right? Shang Xie was speechless for a moment, his eyes were blazing, he carefully looked at Leta's condition, and seemed to be weighing the pros and cons. At this moment, Shang Xie tried hard to suppress his anger. As a top powerhouse, he had almost no rivals in the central star field of the Milky Way, but that didn't mean that Shang Xie was at ease. Above the senior domain lord level, there are also post-domain lord levels. Those who are stronger than the lower level of territory lord belong to the high level of galaxy, and those who exist at the peak of galaxy. Although he can enjoy a little bit of freedom, he is far from dominating the entire world. A strong man of unknown origin suddenly appeared and had the ability to escape from his own hands. The background behind it must be unimaginably huge. He, Sir Leta, there must be a misunderstanding between you and me about this matter, and it is the dead diplomatic leader who is causing trouble. Shang Xie suddenly laughed, and his smile was so sincere. Several subordinates who had followed Shang Xie here and were ready to see their master show off his power suddenly looked like they had seen a ghost. Wasn't this gentleman filled with righteous indignation just now when he heard that the so-called envoy of Yin and Yang Dao was making a big fuss in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the evil power and wanted to kill him with thunder? Why did he change his face now? Ha ha ha, my lord, it is clear that this matter was certainly done by the dead leader of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Leta is an absolute human being. After hearing Shenxi's words, his expression relaxed slightly and he broke out into a very fake smile. Both sides are acting. They also both know that the other is acting. But it doesn't matter whether they are acting or not. What is important is that the explosive situation was calmed down by these two laughters. This is what they want. Leta is weak on his own. Although he still has some backups, if he really takes action, he may not be able to get rid of Shenxi's forces. The Shenxi forces, on the other hand, saw Leta's endless methods and felt that the opponent might really have some big background, so they slowed down their thoughts of fighting. The man is in love with the concubine, and the two naturally hit it off. Ha 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 ha, Sir Leta, please don't take what we have done before seriously. Recently, some rumor mongers have been spreading rumors among our forces. Otherwise, I wouldn't be so angry. Not long after the exchange of greetings, Leta and the other party were enjoying each other happily. If it weren't for the awkwardness, they would have become brothers. Oh! No wonder. From the information I gathered earlier, I found that Your Excellency Shang Xie is a gentle and elegant man. I also asked why Your Excellency was angry. It turns out there was a reason. That's right, this is not the place to talk. How about Your Majesty Leta follow me to a suitable place so that I can fulfill my friendship as a landlord? Then it's up to the guest to do as he pleases. Please. The two of them quickly became talking and laughing, and in the midst of the chatter, they left in an instant. Only a group of stunned onlookers were left on the spot. Well, that Leta actually has a background. It doesn't matter if he has a background. The key is that the Lord Shenxi we know is far from a pleasant person. Now that someone has knocked on his door and killed a territory lord-level subordinate, he can still talk to him without any anger. Very happy. I'm afraid I've met a fake Shang Xie. All the foreign envoys who watched the whole process looked at me one by one, and I looked at you, feeling that their understanding of the evil forces was refreshed. After all, Shang Xie's forces are nearby and they can be described as domineering and unparalleled. When have you ever seen Shang Xie so gentle and gentle? Haha, but this thing can't be replicated. That Leta, tisk tisk, yin yang dao, I have never heard of it before. From now on, it will be resounding in the nearby starry sky. Yin yang dao? I seem to have heard of it somewhere, and it seems to be inconspicuous. Go back and check it out carefully. The main parties involved left, and the members of the evil promoting forces in the vicinity, as well as the envoys from all over the place, all returned and dispersed in low spirits. After watching half of the show, I thought I could watch the whole show, but I didn't expect that Shang Xie, who has always been extremely domineering, gave up at the critical moment. But this incident also gave other forces many deep thoughts. I am particularly interested in the sudden emergence of the yin-yang Dao force. If yin and yang Dao can really fight against the evil forces, then many of them will have another choice to get rid of the evil forces. Ha ha ha, it turns out that the yin-yang Dao where Mr. Late lives grew stronger with your own eyes. It's easy to talk about. Although the ancestor of our sect, yin-yang, is not very old, his creation is towering and his strength is unfathomable. Although I have watched its establishment, I still can't imagine the true strength of ancestor yin-yang. Two voices sounded deep in the starry sky. All around are beautiful scenes of mist. The hinterland of Shenxi's forces is not some huge planet, but the entire starry sky, which has been transformed into a paradise by great means. This is a true paradise. A large number of beautiful scenery have been brought from the depths of the universe, and trees with flowers and flowers just grow in space. If there is any earth, then the entire starry sky is full of earth, and even the flower beds are as huge as the earth. There are some beautiful races for people to appreciate, such as the 2 or 3 kilometers tall little elves singing among the flowers, and the cute little fireballs flying in the sky. There are also guides with milky voices introducing the scenery. Extremely luxurious. Leda, on the other hand, was chatting with Shengxia in the most prestigious position in the starry sky. As Shengxia listened, he had a lot of doubts, and even a faint cold light flickered under his eyes. He asked, "Your Excellency, the yin-yang Dao, is such a promising force. Brother, I am very ignorant and have never heard of the name of yin-yang. I wonder if I can tell you how strong the master of the yin-yang Dao is." Got to the point. Leda was waiting for these questions. If yin-yang's strength is not something to be afraid of, Leda believes that Shengxia, who seems to be living in harmony, may have evil intentions in the blink of an eye. He calmly picked up the drink, poured the possibly valuable drink down his throat, praised it, "Good wine," and then said slowly, "Actually, the strength of yin-yang, the master of this Tao, is not too strong." Hearing this, Shengxia's eyes suddenly showed a hint of anger. "But then I heard Leda say, because Taoist yin and yang are just the clone of the leader I serve." In an instant, Ben brewed a surge of energy and directly dispersed all the energy. It disappeared as quickly as it came. When he looked up again, he saw Leda looking at him calmly, with a bit of coldness in his eyes. After the two looked at each other, Shengxia found that he was a little embarrassed. He laughed dryly, "So, the so-called Taoist yin and yang is the clone of another friend." Snapped. Before he finished speaking, Leda's eyes were about to burst, and he raised his eyebrows angrily and suddenly smashed the wine glass, smashing the huge 1-kilometer wine glass into pieces. His aura immediately turned cold, and at the same time, a terrifying instrument that made Shengxia feel cold sweat all over his body emerged from the subspace. The power contained in this artifact caused senior domain lords to rise to the level of evil, giving them the illusion that death was imminent. What is this? Why is it that just an item poses a death threat to me? In an instant, Shengxia felt that he was not living in a galaxy where strength was stronger than anything else, but in the fantasy world of cultivation that the people at the bottom love to see. Among them, there are always some artifacts. Once you get it, you will be a peerless master. You can threaten existences stronger than yourself and feel comfortable. But what the hell? Who has ever heard that such a thing exists in reality? He was stunned and didn't dare to move. Looking at Leda again, his face seemed extremely ugly. After taking out the vessel, he said in a cold voice, "Master Shenxi, you actually said that the leader of my family is your friend. Do you know that this alone is enough for me to convict you? If this thing is thrown out, you will probably die or be disabled." Shengxia's thoughts turned rapidly for a moment. He thought of something, and his expression suddenly fell into some kind of incomprehension. He seemed to be shocked, and said hesitantly, This is a misunderstanding, Brother Leda, Could it be, that the leader of your family, is actually, a senior domain lord or above? At this point, his mouth went dry. Because even Shensi himself has never seen a powerful person above senior domain lord or above several times in his life. Every time he felt the presence of a powerful person above the level of senior territory lord, he would feel that he was extremely insignificant and was still in the initial stage of cultivation. It was these feelings that made him worry every time he had nightmares that some lower-level domain lord who far exceeded his own strength would completely overthrow the evil-promoting power that he had spent half his life building. Unexpectedly, today, it seems that, I really encountered it. That's right. This messenger's boss is a top being above the level of a senior domain lord. Now do you know what kind of mistake you made? Upon hearing this, Shensi shuddered all over. Sure enough, the person standing behind Leda is a real junior domain lord? This is too ridiculous. He actually didn't take the envoy sent by the other party seriously, and even almost besieged the envoy and killed him. No. It's not just a close call. If it weren't for the endless means of the messenger himself, he would be dead. And killing an envoy sent by a lower-level being of the territory lord is a crime. Thinking of this, Shang Xie was so frightened that he felt that he was at the gate of hell. But he suddenly thought of something. Sure enough, the person standing behind Leda is a real junior domain lord? This is too ridiculous. He actually didn't take the envoy sent by the other party seriously, and even almost besieged the envoy and killed him. No. It's not just a close call. If it weren't for the endless means of the messenger himself, he would be dead. And killing an envoy sent by a lower-level being of the territory lord is a crime. Thinking of this, Shang Xie was so frightened that he felt that he was at the gate of hell. But he suddenly thought of something. Sure enough, the person standing behind Leda is a real junior domain lord? This is too ridiculous. He actually didn't take the envoy sent by the other party seriously, and even almost besieged the envoy and killed him. No. It's not just a close call. If it weren't for the endless means of the messenger himself, he would be dead. And killing an envoy sent by a lower-level being of the territory lord is a crime. Thinking of this, Shang Xie was so frightened that he felt that he was at the gate of hell. But he suddenly thought of something. Sure enough, the person standing behind Leda is a real junior domain lord? This is too ridiculous. Find bookstore. He actually didn't take the envoy sent by the other party seriously, and even almost besieged the envoy and killed him. No. It's not just a close call. If it weren't for the endless means of the messenger himself, he would be dead. And killing an envoy sent by a lower-level being of the territory lord is a crime. Thinking of this, Shang Xie was so frightened that he felt that he was at the gate of hell. But he suddenly thought of something. Killing an envoy sent by a lower-level being of the territory lord is a crime. Thinking of this, Shang Xie was so frightened that he felt that he was at the gate of hell. But he suddenly thought of something. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3068. Master Utensil collided with a master of Onmyedo, who was forced to fight back and killed him. After that, adhering to the idea of good neighborliness and friendship between the two sides, Leda was sent to visit the Shensi forces to show friendship between the two sides and avoid serious consequences. What a polite force. Shit. The idea of ascending the evil heart may sound logical, but it is anything but. Leda is a good talker, and with a single speech, the Yin-Yang Dao killed the master of the utensil, confusing the right and wrong, saying that the master of the utensil was seeking death himself, and the Yin and Yang Dao had to take action to kill the beast. Leda's subsequent visit, in his opinion, was more of a beating than just a visit. After all, a mid-level star can pose a serious threat to his senior domain lord level. What is the meaning of this Yin-Yang Dao visit is really meaningful. But even if he knew the inside story, what could he say? Situations are stronger than people. It turns out that Yin and Yang Dao is so considerate of friends from small forces like us. But before, we were too petty to judge the heart of a gentleman. Your Excellency Leda, the master of the vessel is seeking death, and I have no objection. I don't dare to pursue anything, and I also ask Master Leda to apologize to the master of Yin and Yang Dao, it's because of my lax governance. Leda looked at Shangxia leisurely and was extremely respectful to him. All sorts of joy flashed through my heart. Senior Territory Lord, you are a high-level presence in the big power when you go to the superstar, but now you are timid in front of him, like a weak person. This doesn't feel good. Why does it feel good? He waved his paw and said lightly, Sir Shangxia must have been neglectful of his subordinates. I have clearly seen Master Shangxia's true intentions in this matter. He must not be a master of vessels or the diplomatic leader of a noble force. I will report your attitude to the master at the meeting, and how the Taoist master decides after that is beyond the control of my mere envoy. Shangxia's eyelids twitched and he quickly looked at the elves surrounded by flowers. The elves showed a little bit of cleverness in their pitiful appearance, and flew quickly towards the edge of the flower garden, and soon they brought several large boxes. What is this? Master Shangxia looks down on this envoy, and you really want to bribe me? Leda pretended to be serious. No, no, Ambassador Leda and I hit it off immediately. This is definitely not a bribe, but I saw that Master Leda is at the middle level of the galaxy. I happen to have some things in my hand that can be used to improve the middle level of the galaxy. If it's a waste of space if you don't put them away after use. Ambassador Leda, please don't mind the age of these items and take care of them for me. Do you want to deal with Master Shenxi's waste? Well, that's fine, who asked this envoy to help others? Thank you very much, Master Shenxi. I will find a solution for you. Saying that, Leda put the items into the subspace one by one. Feeling that Leda is not suitable for the subspace, Shangxia had some understanding, this Leda is not a person with strong talent in the subspace. However, someone forced him to have subdimensional abilities. Although it is impossible to compare with those who are truly talented in subspace, compared with ordinary people of the same level, his subdimensional abilities are also exquisite. Could it be that the so-called master of Yin-Yang Dao is a talented master of subspace? That would be even more offending. It is recognized that subspace talent is extremely difficult to kill. Even if Shangxia can invite his colleagues to launch a joint attack on the Yin and Yang Dao, but knowing that the other party has a top master with subspace talent, his flame will be sparked quickly. Being snuffed out. Besides, I still don't know the basics of Yin and Yang. There really is some powerful person at the lower level of the territory lord who is in charge. Even if he crawls over on his knees and apologizes, he doesn't dare to start a fight. Now that the diplomatic visit is over, this envoy can retire with success. Leda solved the problem and received a wave of benefits. He was very satisfied and stood up to leave. Is the ambassador about to leave? Although I really want to keep the ambassador for a little longer, he must have important things to do. I don't dare to disturb him, so I'll send him off. Shangxia's cheerful and kind attitude, please lead Leda outward. And some of those elves and various beautiful things paved a flower path beside them, as if they were in a dream, which made Leda, a country bumpkin with little knowledge, almost have the idea of staying in the evil forces and living a domineering life. Idea. Fortunately, the thoughts were quickly extinguished. Without the support of Yin and Yang Dao behind him, he would be a fart intimidation. A large number of reporters and outside observers had been waiting nearby for a long time. When they saw Shangxia personally escorting Leda out, they immediately aroused exclamations of surprise. For a time, People speculated that the so-called yin and yang Dao was probably not an easy person to deal with. Even senior domain lords like Sheng Xie were subdued. Large pieces of information and cutting-edge video content are transmitted in all directions like snowflakes. For a time, Yin Yang Dao, a previously unknown name, resounded throughout the surrounding area. Using his powerful flying skills, Leda quickly disappeared into the starry sky with the blessing of the power of the formation, and quickly left towards the backward starry sky. On the other side, Sheng Xie's smile quickly turned into a cold one. Have you found out the specific information about Yin and Yang Dao? Sir, Yin Yang Dao, we really only have the information we have. A domain lord in charge of intelligence work faintly appeared behind Sheng Xie, and there was some self-blame in his words. Yin and Yang Dao is by no means as simple as what they looked up. However, no matter how they searched, they could only get the fragments they had obtained previously. That's all. For deeper information, I also know that it will take time for you to wait, so continue to investigate closely. The second thing is the Yin and Yang Dao stuff. From now on, it will be classified as a first-class diplomatic matter. No matter how big or small, it must be handled by you or me personally. Judging by looking at it, whoever dares to transgress will be punished with an additional penalty. Okay. The territory lord in charge of the intelligence hesitated for a moment before asking, Sir, if this Yin Yang Dao is just a silver spear and a wax head as judged, should we immediately launch revenge? After all, the so-called Yin Yang sect has nothing to do with me. In other words, it's just a flip-flop existence. Shen Xi hesitated for a moment, then shook his head. You have only been waiting to be promoted to the territory lord level for a short time. You only know how to do things, and you only know the territory lord's majesty. But you don't know that the territory lord level, and even my senior territory lord level, are nothing more than floating clouds in the eyes of truly powerful people. Regardless of the fact that there may be truly powerful people in Yin Yang Dao, just talking about Leda's methods is probably enough for me to drink a pot. Until things come to light, I must maintain considerable respect for Yin Yang Dao. Do you understand? Good. Sheng Xie has a fiery temperament, but he is by no means an impulsive person when faced with matters that are stronger than him or may be dangerous. Everyone has two sides, and the same is true for the Sheng Xie. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to become a senior domain lord just based on his fiery temper. This mission should not be too bad. During the rapid progress mixed with the power of the formation, Leda reviewed the strip. Then he let out a long breath. It was far from his original intention to be domineering among the evil forces. As a person who looked forward and backward, and whose self-confidence had been shattered before, he had no idea of being domineering. He acted like that only because his status required it. Fortunately, he wasn't exposed and didn't do anything wrong. How? Within the starry sky, his figure flashed across the sky like a flash in the pen. Behind the star field. Yin Yang sect. The recent days have been the most prosperous and the most morale-filled days for the Yin Yang sect in decades. The sect leader appeared and killed several terrifying powerful men represented by foreign domain masters. This caused the Yin Yang sect's status in the nearby backward star field to reach its peak for a while. The forces that were originally at odds with each other immediately resorted to strategies such as fleeing, or coming to beg for mercy. The forces with an ordinary attitude are sharpening their heads and seeking to become the Yin Yang sect's protective subordinate force. The most exciting thing is undoubtedly the small group that has followed the Yin Yang sect from the beginning, or has established a good relationship with the Yin Yang sect over the past few decades. They are either businessmen or small factions and sects. Nowadays, they all come to visit their relatives, and they find reasons to come even if there is no reason to do so. The Yin Yang sect, which has the ability to kill domain lord level beings, is one of the top forces even in a larger scope, let alone in this backward starry sky where domain lords cannot come out. Not to mention, the Yin-Yang sect master also said that Yin-Yang Dao has other great masters. Rumor has it that he is a mid-level domain lord. That is even more touching. After all, a mid-level territory lord is senior enough to cover a radius of more than 10 or 20 light years, and the territory he controls can be infinitely large. What's more, the sect leader's own strength is even more unfathomable, and no one has yet figured out the root cause. Who wouldn't want to curry favor with such a force? The entire Yin-Yang sect glowed with new vitality. However, it is difficult for outside diplomats to see the current high-level officials of the Yin-Yang sect. Because the Yin-Yang sect has more important things to do. That is the array talent selection. The entire selection does not depend on strength, status, or anything else. It only depends on whether the Yin and Yang Dao of the disciples is in line with the sect leader's new technique, the array Dao. It has to be said that there are quite a few disciples of the Yin-Yang sect, and Jia Yan really selected a group of talents after being picky and picky. His disciple Lan Kuo was the first to bear the brunt of the attack. He began to teach these disciples the basics of formation. And using them, we launched a large-scale research on the power of formations. After just a few days of preparation, he had come to a lot of conclusions and verified a lot of things. Adisha also contributed a lot. As for Xiao Yuer, the personal disciple, she also did a lot of things, mainly in the atmosphere group, cheering and causing trouble. Junior sister Adisha, I still don't understand much here. Can I ask you for advice? Little Adisha was standing with Xiao Yuer, but their conversation was interrupted by Lan Kuo behind them. Adisha looked back and nodded with a smile. Okay, Adisha will help you. With that said, she flew to Lan Kuo's huge body, looked at what he didn't understand, and began to explain. The little fish spitting bubbles below are eating it. Humph, Sister Adisa, you don't want to play with me anymore. It's so boring. Xiao Yuer was extremely unhappy. These days, everyone is leading a very progressive life, but she, strictly speaking, the master's only direct disciple, has become a passerby and an outsider. She may be suitable for Jia Yan's Yin and Yang Dao, and also suitable for Jia Yan's subspace talent. However, the power of the formation path requires not only talent, but also a lot of insights. Xiao Yuer may be in the next few decades. 100 years from now, he will become a talented person in formations, but it will definitely not be the case now. She is still ignorant about life. How can she understand the profound meaning of the array? So during these days, she was in a daze and listened to classes that she didn't understand all day long, just like listening to a book from heaven. As a result, I finally managed to get Sister Adisha to play for a while, but I was disturbed by the uncertainties of the world. She is really angry. Master, Xiao Er has no one to play with. Xiao Er feels very uncomfortable. She finally couldn't help it and ran to Jia Yan to confide. Well, I'll give you an extremely important task as my teacher. Jia Yan knew her situation and immediately stared at her. Mission? Very important? Okay, Xiao Yuer also has to do a mission. When she heard it, she almost jumped 3 feet high. She also wants to do great things and make others look at her in a new light. Who makes everyone seem to ignore her? Angry. Jia Yan said seriously, this matter is very important. It involves the reputation of the Yin-Yang sect and even my teacher. It would have been impossible for you, a child, to do it. However, I have seen that you have been quite well behaved recently, so I hereby hand this matter over to you. It's up to you to do it. Do you have the confidence to complete it? Yes. The little fish is confident. The little fish was already jumping up and down in excitement, swinging its tail back and forth, wishing it could find an enemy for a fight right now. Okay, now you just do as the teacher says. Under Jia Yan's serious words, Xiao Yuer listened sternly and nodded desperately from time to time. A few moments. After finishing answering Lan Kuo's questions, Adisha flew back to the ground and found that Xiaoyuer's figure had disappeared. I thought she had wandered off somewhere to play again, and I was about to take out my communicator to make contact, but I saw a small pink figure floating past in the distance. Xiaoyuer, it turns out you came here. My sister is looking for you. Where are you going to play next? Xiaoyuer looked at Edisha, who came to him like a teleport, and stayed away with disgust, shouting loudly. Sister Edisha, please go away and... Xiaoyuer has a mission, so don't disturb Xiaoyuer. Have a mission? Edisha was stunned and asked, who gave you the task? It's a task given by the master. Sister Editha, you kid, don't ask. Xiaoyuer has to go on a task. I don't have time to play with you. You can play by yourself. When Edisha heard this, she roughly guessed what she was doing. She nodded and said, well, sister, please be careful when doing tasks. Sister, go on with your business. Yeah. Little fish will be careful. The pink fish swung its tail and disappeared in a blink of an eye, leaping into space beyond the yin-yang star. At this moment, the entire yin-yang sect is still full of various topics related to selection. Every day, someone from a certain family is selected to become a candidate, or becomes an official disciple of the array professor, and the widely circulated news. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3069. Everyone is paying attention to the news about disciple selection. The crowds of people coming and going in space mostly move because of this. Suddenly, a childish voice that looked like a pitiful child screamed fiercely in the space channel. Come quickly, Xiao needs your help. The pedestrians and caravans coming and going around him were all stunned for a moment, but they quickly came to their senses. If it were in another realm, no one would care about this strange sound. But this is the yin-yang sect. The master's yin and yang are unfathomable and his strength is astonishing. Now he is sitting in the yin-yang star. How could Fang Xiaoxiao dare to disturb the yin and yang of Tai Sui? That must be someone who is really in trouble. Where's the little sister exclaiming? Don't worry, I'm here to save you. Everyone quickly expressed their intention to help. This is not just because they all have compassion, but because they can show their faces in front of the yin-yang sect, or they are members of the yin-yang sect, which can make their elders look at them differently. Soon someone with sharp ears and eyes discovered that the owner of the childish voice shouting in space was actually a young fish creature flying alone in the starry sky. This little pink creature looks cute and adorable. Little girl, are you separated from your family? Do you want your uncle to take you home? Little sister, elder sister will take you home to find your father. Why is a person crying in the starry sky? Such a young child is crying in the starry sky. Suddenly someone reacted. For older children, you can also use Tianzone Wizard to explain. This little pink fish is too young, isn't it? Can it fly in the starry sky at this age? Absolutely extraordinary. Hurry up and help Xiao, the master has a mission. Xiaoyuer found that there were many good people, and these people were willing to help him. Her smile was as bright as a flower. This group of people, Monk Zhang Er, was confused. Within the yin-yang star, there is a tall mountain peak like the yin-yang sect's landmark building, the yin-yang peak. There is a small single-family cabin on it. Jia Yan's yin and yang avatar sits in it, unchanged for thousands of years. He smiled. This child, I asked her to do something, but I didn't say she should do it this way. That's all, just let her do whatever she wants, and this matter will probably not have too bad an impact. The yin and yang turtle raised its head and showed a slight smile. And affairs in space are unfolding in full swing. With Xiao Yuer's identity endorsement, no matter what little tricks she is doing, those who are willing to follow her will follow her. The opportunity to come into contact with the direct disciples of the Yin-Yang sect master is rarely available. What's more, the little kid in front of him is not an ordinary disciple of the Yin-Yang sect, but a real direct disciple whose status and talent are rumored to be far above those of the direct disciples of the Yin-Yang sect. Many people don't understand the difference, but it is always right to treat her as another direct disciple. There should not be too many people who are willing to build relationships and volunteer to be subordinates. Little Yuer is so tired, Xiao Yuer is so capable. Xiao Yuer is busy every day. I can't guarantee what her final result will be, but this attitude deserves recognition. Xiao Yuer is keenly aware of this. Recently, more and more people have praised her, which also confirms the little guy's determination of his own behavior. Behind the star field. The entire starry sky shows obviously different boundaries from other starry skies in the outside world. This boundary is by no means intentional. But due to certain conditions, materials in the backward star field are extremely scarce compared to most places in the central star field of the Milky Way, so at the boundary between the two, there will be very wonderful scenery. This backward star field, from some aspects, is not far behind. A huge figure was nodding and watching in the starry sky. He is none other than Leda, who has traveled a long way and has come back to seclusion from the evil forces without stopping. Leda has successfully completed his mission, and even to some extent, he has done better than the mission Jia Yan told him to complete. People are in high spirits when happy events happen. For backward star regions, if you look at them without colored glasses, you can still find many beautiful things. Such as the development of backward star field technology. At least in the field of applied science, the backward star field is obviously more developed than the surrounding starry sky. Secondly, in terms of people's livelihood, there are not many strong people in backward star regions, and the livelihood of the people is closely related to the strong people taking charge of backward star regions. Therefore, the forces in power take care of the weak in an unprecedented way, which also results in backward star regions. People's livelihood is prosperous and everyone is equal to the greatest extent. Every place has its own merits, and the same is true for backward star regions. Leda sighed and flew into the backward star field. He didn't have any idea of making a big splash during his trip to the backward star field. That should be something experienced by Master Jia Yan, his master, and his apprentice. It has nothing to do with his being who is not very high in status, not very strong, and not very familiar with the backward star field, so he even thinks that when he returns to the Yin-Yang sect, Master Jia Yan will continue to ask him to hide identity. What he never expected was that Leda made a miscalculation this time. As soon as they approached the vicinity of Yin-Yang sect, Leda had no time to continue to cover up others' eyes and ears, and he sensed a special strong wave outside the Yin-Yang star. That is the brainwave power sound transmission belonging to Jia Yan's clone Yin-Yang. The transmission targets were Leda himself and the naughty young lady Xiao Yuer who was in the starry sky. Soon, he discovered that the almost imperceptible fish in the starry sky was listening to something. Then he showed a smile, nodded vigorously, and quickly gave instructions. Leda didn't know what kind of medicine was sold in the gourd, so he bravely followed Jia Yan's instructions and showed up. Dong dong dong. Dong 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 dong. Soon, like morning bells and evening drums, the sound that resounded through the heart came from the direction indicated by Xiao Yuer. Groups of Yin-Yang sect disciples who had been waiting in the shadows around the planet, as well as outside businessmen who had been captured as young men, were like welcoming seniors with great supernatural powers, with great fanfare, chants, and musical instruments, all united as one. Chanted in unison. Welcome, welcome, warm welcome. Uncle Leda, welcome back to the Yin-Yang section. Uncle Leda, you are the best. What the hell kind of slogan is this? Leda Ben's surprise was more than half extinguished by this messy chant. After looking at the bullish little pink fish with flushed cheeks, he suddenly understood. It turns out that this matter was done by Xiao Yuer, no wonder it is like this. So ingenious. But it was considered intentional, and the welcome this time should have been approved by Lord Jia Yan, otherwise Xiao Yuer himself must have had the courage to think of such a trivial matter. Really? It's kind of heartwarming. Uncle Leda, you are back. Listen, did Xiao Yuer ask them to shout well? Did Xiao Yuer complete his task well? Uncle, are you happy? The little pink fish has its nose raised to the sky. She flew up to Leda's eyes, jumping up and down, looking extremely happy. Leda had to be careful even when blinking her eyelashes, so as not to blow the little girl's eyelashes away. Yes, yes, Miss Yuer, Uncle Leda is very, very happy. You have done a good job. Has Lord Jia Yan notified the Yin-Yang sect of your uncle's existence? Be careful not to scare them. He, they are not so useless. Really, I did see that some people were anxious and some even fainted. Yeah, Xiao Yuer doesn't know there is such a person. Xiao Yuer went to save people. Uncle, please go back. As a disciple of Jia Yan, Xiao Yuer has a very upright outlook on life and is quite kind. He also knows how to save the people he hires. Leda shook his head. How could he not know that the person who fainted was just a frightened bird that fainted from fear? But it was impossible for him to care about such a trivial matter. Because the real welcoming scene has already begun. A large number of Yin-Yang sect media, as well as visitors from other forces inside and outside the Yin-Yang sect, all welcomed the planet. Their number is simply not the same as the thousands of welcoming teams arranged by Xiao Yuer. But in terms of weight and strength, they are far stronger than anyone else. Moreover, at the front of this group of creatures, there is a being that Leda must respect the most, Yin-Yang. As Jia Yan's clone, Yin-Yang's strength is equally unfathomable. Leda doesn't want to be disliked by this boss's clone. He quickly came forward to greet him. I've met Master Yin-Yang. Haha, Leda, I am very happy that you are back safe and sound. I wonder how the mission went. Thanks to your protection, this mission went very smoothly. The master of the evil promoting forces has already tasted the horror of my Yin-Yang Dao, and promised to treat my Yin-Yang Dao with utmost respect in the future. That's good. Jia Yan deliberately made the promotion of evil forces the first sentence of conversation when they met, and his purpose was obvious. That is to let the senior officials of the Yin-Yang sect around you and other powerful forces coming from further afield listen. Standing behind the Yin-Yang sect is the Yin-Yang Dao, and the Yin-Yang Dao possesses the power to make the overlords of this land of more than 1,000 light years, the ascension of evil forces, tremble with fear. This is really the middle level of the galaxy. I didn't expect that behind the Yin-Yang sect, there is a middle-level star. You know, in the past, a junior star of the galaxy could dominate our backward star region. Now the Yin-Yang sect has the backing of an intermediate star master of the galaxy. This is enough for the Yin-Yang sect to dominate the entire backward star region. No, it's much more than that, haven't you seen? This middle-level being of the galaxy has great respect for the Yin-Yang sect master, and his attitude is even like that of a subordinate towards his superior. It can be seen that the terror of Yin-Yang is definitely not greater than that of a middle-level galaxy of Yin-Yang Dao. Down. That's natural. The Yin-Yang sect master can handle it even at the domain lord level. On the side, many foreign merchants were muttering and talking, feeling both shocked and scared. While many people lamented the above words, they had not yet felt the meaning behind Yin-Yang's words during the conversation with Senior Leda. Until someone was stunned for a moment and suddenly reacted. Hey, what Senior Leda just said was promoting evil forces. It was so fierce that some people realized it later. Ascension to evil forces? This. No wonder they couldn't react for a long time. As the well-deserved overlords of the surrounding areas, the Shensi forces have actually already exceeded the level that the backward starry sky can reach. The existences that usually stir up trouble in the backward starry sky are at most junior and middle level galaxies, and even the domain lord level seems to be it has never appeared in their history, let alone the power established by the senior domain lord power, who is more powerful than the domain lord level. For the backward star regions, it was a power that was as high as heaven. But according to what Senior Leda said just now, this senior actually received the order from the Yin-Yang sect master to go to the Shensi forces and start a diplomatic confrontation with the Shensi forces. And from what Senior Leda said, it seemed that this confrontation ended with Leda's victory. Is Yin-Yang Dao such a terrifying force? For a moment, everyone was even more chilled. Looking at the Yin-Yang sect master in the conversation and the terrifying mid-level galaxy powerhouse who was several times larger than everyone else, they felt their hearts beating with fear. These two people are more respected and even greater than anyone imagined. Fortunately, the two people in the conversation did not neglect the others around them too much. Jia Yan quickly introduced everyone around him for Leda. Even though some people had already been in contact with Leda when he was hiding next to Jia Yan, he still started a friendly conversation with them in a serious manner when they first met. For such a strong man to be able to dedicate himself to communicating with the weak in a calm manner, everyone felt like a spring breeze of friendship. Some people were so excited that they were speechless for several times. They were still confused until they returned to the queue. They must have turned around and had a huge topic worth bragging about for a lifetime. Lan Kuo, I know you. Hey, senior, do you know me? When Lan Kuo stepped forward, he was confused by what Leda said. Leda smiled and glanced up and down, nodded and said, yes, I was waiting by your side to observe the border battle. Young man, I am very optimistic about your formation talent. If you have any chance in the past 2 days, Sara, you can come to where I am staying. I can find some insights into the power of Taoism in Shiyuan. Although it is not as good as the Yin-Yang sect master, I still have some ideas for finding new ways. We will talk about it then. Lan Kuo was startled, but before he could react, the Yin-Yang master beside him was already shaking his head with a smile. Lan Kuo, why don't you quickly thank the senior Leda? Leda's cultivation and insights are not much worse than those of his master in terms of the power of the formation. After listening to Leda's insights, you may be able to gain some insights from his master. A unique perspective on formation path will definitely be beneficial to your formation progress. Your Excellency, you have given me a reward. Leda quickly humbled himself. But everyone, including himself, knew that what Jia Yan said was correct. He is an experimenter of the power of the formation. Although he may not be as good as Jia Yan himself in terms of use, he is definitely not too far behind. He can learn a lot from Jia Yan's understanding of the power of the formation. But his own understanding of the power of Taoism may not even be grasped by Jia Yan. This is not because he refuses to tell Jia Yan, but as a pioneer who combines the power of the array with the yin and yang Tao, Jia Yan cannot absorb other people's opinions, which will cause damage to his pioneering journey. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3070. Leda's arrival was like a shot in the arm, making the yin-yang sect's already soaring reputation once again improve. After all, although Yin-Yang himself has both talents and virtues, he still cannot stand alone. God knows whether this person is wandering around the galaxy. In addition, no one knows the details of Yin-Yang, let alone how much attention he attaches to the Yin-Yang section. If Yin-Yang disappears in the future, some forces may black hands will inevitably breed evil spirits. The arrival of Leda has eliminated people's suspicion that the Yin-Yang sect has only Yin-Yang alone. Within 2 days, the news from the rising evil forces was like a fatal blow, shattering the delusions in the hearts of some people who harbored delusions. That mid-level stellar Yin-Yang master Leda actually received the order of the Yin-Yang sect master a few days ago to go to the Shensi forces to negotiate. Later, because he was dissatisfied with the Shensi forces turning a deaf ear to the Yin-Yang Dao, he openly attacked the Ministry of Foreign Affairs takes action to promote evil forces. The exaggerated truth comes quickly. As the overlord of the Shensi forces, despite having many strong men whose superficial strength far surpassed Leda used shocking yin-yang methods to kill a domain lord and seriously injure a galaxy mid-level. Even more so, he faced off against the most powerful figure in the Shensi forces, Shensi himself, who took action in person. He was struck from the air. He was supposed to die without a burial place, but in the end he was completely intact. He was even quickly invited by Shensi to sit down. As guests, no one knows what they talked about, but after the meeting, just looking at Shensi's attitude towards Leda, it was clear that Shensi's forces had admitted defeat. In other words, Shensi forces with senior domain lord level strength have expressed their surrender to Yin and Yang Dao. How strong should this Yin and Yang Dao be? And the Yin-Yang sect is under the Yin-Yang Dao, who dares to touch them? For a moment, the entire starry sky became silent, and I felt unbelievable. When had the backward star field ever heard of such a major event? Not to mention the main players, they are still the most popular overlord level force in the backward star field. All hell breaks loose. There are those who want to take refuge, those who want to take their families, and those who want to flee further away. There are also some who are ants on the hot pot, wondering whether the Yin-Yang sect is so terrible that it will swallow up the backward star regions. There are all kinds of things, but they can't affect the current Yin-Yang sect. The Yin-Yang sect has a strong foundation, so it is naturally not afraid of the noise from the outside world. Even the intelligence agencies began to relax. Because no matter whether they have obtained any information that is unfavorable to the Yin-Yang sect, the attackers will not pay too much attention to it. Everyone knows that no matter how capable the invading enemies are, they cannot cause too much damage to the current Yin-Yang section harm. This is true for everyone else, let alone Jia Yan and Leda. Leda just came back and was treated like a machine again. The major direct disciples of the Yin-Yang sect were all handed over by Jia Yan like a shopkeeper, and were thrown to Leda, asking him to explain the basic theory of Yin-Yang Dao combined with the power of Formation Dao. And Leda was worthy of being someone who was favored by Jia Yan for his eloquence and argumentation. When he taught his disciples, he was concise, but he could often get to the point in his concise words. Many of Jia Yan's words were mysterious and he could not explain what he said. But to him it is like the finishing touch, making people enlightened. The disciples only listened to the class for a few days, and the dull ones at least gained a superficial understanding, while those who already had the ability to understand the formations made rapid progress, and everyone praised Leda. He almost didn't say it, let them change the family, and worship Leda as their teacher. Of course no one is that stupid. Judging from Leda's attitude towards Onmyoji, they can also understand that Onmyoji's status is probably far above Leda. I'm afraid Yin-Yang Dao is by no means as simple as the regional main-level force they previously imagined. Even mid-level stars like Leda have the ability to single-handedly intimidate senior domain lord-level forces. They cannot imagine how powerful the entire Yin and Yang Dao is. Therefore, Master, the founder, is definitely far more terrifying than they could understand at the beginning, so they must hold on tightly to this thought. Sir, today I taught several disciples of your excellency, and there has been a gap in talent. Others dare not say that they are not working hard, but due to the gap in talent, I am afraid that in the future, they will become like a drag, so it is recommended that we divide them into several large classes to teach. You and I will only be in charge of those with the best talents. Those with less talents should be taught by those with the best talents. In this way, the benefits can be maximized. Leda's suggestion made Jia Yan ponder slightly. In fact, this suggestion is very good, but it is a bit cruel. It is certain that the talents of the disciples are different, but one size fits all means that those with ordinary talents among them cannot get personal guidance, which is tantamount to cutting off their deeper learning of yin and yang dao, and even more cutting off without the understanding that the yin-yang dao may become an indispensable aid to the array dao in the future, and falling behind step by step, the disciples may then have a terrible gap in strength and status. But this is a society of the strong, and Jia Yan believes that he has already done everything he can to be benevolent and righteous. Okay, I'll leave this matter to you. It's not convenient for me to do it. That's natural. After all, sir, you are still their master. Doing this in person will always make some disciples uncomfortable. Jia Yan nodded, and Leda, who was familiar with his temper, withdrew. After thinking for a while, Jia Yan spoke softly. Not long after, two slender figures who heard from Jia Yan flew over Yin Yang Peak. You two, you've been having fun lately. Now it's training time. Go and learn from Leda. Okay. Aidasha and Xiao Yu nodded directly without any resistance. In the Yin-Yang sect, they had a great time playing, dominating, and feeling superior to others. If they continued to play, it would be no fun, so they might as well just practice. Especially Xiao Yu. She lost the last competition. She is quite competitive. She has been uncomfortable playing recently and wants to get her place back. After bidding farewell to the two little girls, Jia Yan had nothing more to arrange, so he turned his thoughts back to his true body. While the avatar is acting outside, the real body is practicing deep in the subspace not far away. Jia Yan's strength has already entered a certain bottleneck period. It is quite difficult to improve the combat effectiveness of the lower-level territory lords. No matter how talented you are, it is useless. You have to rely on opportunities and insights to make further progress. However, it was not too long ago that he was promoted to the lower level of territory lord. He had previously traveled on the two giant stars and gained several small insights. This was the time when he needed time to digest them, so his cultivation progress was still acceptable. I have gained a lot from this retreat, and my combat effectiveness must have been improved a little. The giant mosquito woke up in the center of the palace, and its terrifying momentum swept across the place, creating an overwhelming atmospheric wave. On the Earth, this kind of air wave alone could cause a typhoon of 10 to 20 levels, and a tsunami could also wipe out several human beings. Second rate. At this moment, Jia Yan has already reached a level of strength that is far more astonishing than the immortal that people on Earth thought. The information from the clone has also arrived. Jia Yan looked at the memory content from Yin and Yang. This inheritance method is a way of communicating with the clone that can only be done at close range. It is also a way of communicating with the clone that he has reached the later stage of domain lord and self-understood. As expected, the Shensi forces gave in, but they also overcame obstacles in the process. Leda's personal ability was reflected in this mission. He was indeed the right person to accept him as his subordinate, and he can be given more tasks in the future. Jia Yan first praised Leda's ability. The process of this mission, not to mention a narrow escape from death, was definitely not easy. No matter what step Leda made wrong, there was a possibility of death. After all, he only gave him two means of self-protection, and Leda could not escape even if he ran away. But they had to resort to means to save the most powerful one, and also deter Sheng Xie. In this way, the Yin-Yang sect could still maintain a high probability of safety after he and others left. After giving Leda a thumbs up, he pondered again. But judging from the progress of Leda's mission, I don't know if there is that person's shadow behind Sheng Xie. Before Leda's mission, Jia Yan had guessed that there must be some reason why the Master of Vessels had taken action against the Yin-Yang sect without any reason. Otherwise, why would a dignified domain lord level powerhouse waste time and energy just visiting a backward star domain that no one likes to come to? So he wondered if it was the one who was causing trouble again. But in the entire information sent back by Leda, there was no trace of that person. Jia Yan was full of doubts. Something feels wrong. That's all. With my current ability, if that person dares to cause trouble again, I can kill him directly without thinking so much. That person can really pose a threat to me. Thinking of this, Jia Yan smiled slightly. He leaned over and continued to study the power of the formation. As for the Yin-Yang sect, they have only carried out research on the power of Yin-Yang Dao for a short time, but because of the population base there, they still received a lot of personal reports that interested Jia Yan. Buzz. A blue halo of light popped up from Jia Yan's feet. Within this aperture, there are dense clouds of light, and the power of the circulating formation is not very stable, but the power is extremely violent. This is the power of Jia Yan's Yin and Yang Dao combined with the formation Dao that he usually uses against his enemies. But in the past few days of research, he understood a fact. Even the best Yin-Yang sect disciples cannot simulate this type of formation. Leda is having a hard time. After thinking about it, Jia Yan understood that he was able to use the power of this mode of formation. Firstly, his strength reached the lower level of Domain Lord, and secondly, his talent was unique. It turns out that he is such a famous person. So it must be improved. Jia Yan stared at the blue aperture blooming in the hall. After thinking deeply for a moment, he felt that the dense haze in the aperture gradually flowed and solidified. It was no longer chaotic, but gathered into fonts. There are ancient Chinese characters on it, mixed with ancient hieroglyphs, compiled scripts, etc. Jia Yan thought about it a little more, and found that these fonts became blurry. Even if Zheng or Bajing Earth linguists came to study them, it would be impossible to think of the level of Chinese characters on Earth. Just listen to the roaring sound of yin 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 in the entire formation's aperture, as if it is about to explode. Leda definitely can't control the power of this formation, but if the controller is replaced by Jia Yan, it won't be a problem. He forcefully used the strength of the Domain Master's lower level to suppress the explosion of the power of the formation. It doesn't work here, change it? He stared at the words in the array, the ghostly glyph-like fonts, and a large number of instabilities and errors appeared in his senses one by one. He began to modify them one by one. And as the formation circles began to be repaired everywhere, the roaring tremors slowly subsided. The strange whistling sound also gradually eased, and the feeling of explosion gradually faded away. This job is all about slow work and meticulous work. As soon as Jia Yan lowered his head, he was depressed for who knows how many days. It wasn't until nearly a month later that he let out a breath, looked at the stabilized formation circle, relaxed his eyes, and took a break. The huge array, which was originally dense in the aperture, turned into a large number of various ghost symbols, and the dense energy became the ghost symbol, and it was miraculously stable without any abnormal explosion. This is the latest research that Jia Yan has made by combining all the Yin-Yang Dao disciples and the big data after being investigated and studied by the clones. This formation circle is enough to become the basic formation that Yin-Yang sect disciples first learn. But the talent it requires. Jia Yan looked down at the array filled with stable power, and finally shook his head bitterly. Because of the existence of ordinary strength, it is impossible to directly master the skills of combining Yin and Yang Dao with the power of formations, so beginners must learn ghost drawing formations. In this way, the superimposed talent requirements increase. You must have a decent talent for Yin-Yang Dao, otherwise you won't be able to learn Yin-Yang Dao, so how can you combine Yin-Yang Dao with the power of formation Dao? The second is to have the talent to learn formations. To put it bluntly, you must have good mental power control ability, and you must also have a slightly extraordinary mental power talent. After that, you have to have more sophisticated painting abilities. Don't laugh, it's really like that. Otherwise, even the most basic formations he drew would not be able to be copied. Drawing one formation and then exploding another one would be no joke, it would really explode and kill people. These are not even all, they also need to have the attention and determination to go through the trouble. In addition, as they continue to study the battle path, there may be other requirements for talent, and a large number of people will have to be eliminated by then. The talent requirements are so high that it is difficult to reach the sky by finding Shiyuan. Even Jia Yan, who claimed to be a genius, felt his scalp numb after thinking about it. However, every requirement is not the ultimate. Under the great waves, there must be a group of disciples who can continue to study in the end. Jia Yan secretly calculated the total and couldn't help but nodded. When the first batch of disciples have mastered the basic array, he can directly start the research on array gene enhancement. By then, 1 out of 100 people will be able to produce, and the final result should also have several successful samples, which will help the return of the Orion arm. The fate-changing plan of family members and other relatives will be decisive help. Is there another information coming from the clone? It's been exactly 1 month, and the first phase results are almost there. There was no need to exchange greetings with the clone. Jia Yan directly received the information passed on. Jia Yan tasted the information from his clone Yin Yang, and his expression was slightly startled, and soon became uncertain. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3071. There have been some miraculous disappearances in the Yin-Yang sect, and there are rumors that some disciples have become insane. If this happened in normal times, it would be nothing more than seeing it. After all, due to demographic factors, the probability of similar incidents happening is not low. Urban legend-like events are destined to occur in any force or city. I just don't know if this is just spreading rumors, or if there is something real going on. Jia Yan sneered. It is impossible to spread urban legends to yourself. The only possibility is that it is true. It is a problem that is difficult to solve even if the clone comes forward in person. For such a troublesome thing, there is a high possibility that there is an instigator behind it. Who could that be? Jia Yan shook his head lightly. No matter who is behind the scenes, he must take action personally. It just so happens that my real body has not officially visited the yin-yang section. Maybe I will discover some hidden geniuses that my clone cannot. The palace door opened with a bang, and the giant mosquito's huge body, which was like an asteroid and was more than 50 kilometers long, jumped out of the palace like a flash in the pan. The 10th dimension is so deserted that not even bacteria can survive. The body of the giant mosquito seemed to be as comfortable as a fish in water. In an instant, it traveled thousands of miles and entered a shallow space. He doesn't plan to travel in person. Otherwise, it would be possible to scare a few people in the lagging starry sky to death. This is the bad thing about being a superstar. Within the superstar, no matter how strong you are only that big, several times larger than ordinary creatures. No one knows whether you are a top powerhouse or not. As for the creature that was tens of kilometers long and was thrown into the starry sky, let alone its strength, even the pressure of this behemoth was enough to scare many ordinary creatures. This yin-yang sect really does have some skills. No matter how many sects there are, they are just sects that don't have domain lords in charge, so they are nothing to be afraid of. That's wrong. Haven't you heard what's going on in the yin-yang sect? The story about their mid-level strongman from the galaxy threatening Shangxie? I heard it, but this matter is an urban legend. Due to rumors and rumors, the version we heard may be different from the facts. This is true, but the intermediate galaxy can intimidate senior domain lords, which shows that the yin and yang Dao is still somewhat capable. We must proceed with caution. I understand, haven't we been careful enough in the yin-yang sect recently? Several sneaky figures were in the restaurant facing the street of yin-yang sect, indifferently observing the flourishing yin-yang sect. They heard some legends and sneaked into the yin-yang sect to pursue something. As far as I know, there are many people who have obtained that information, and there are definitely not a few people who have sneaked into the yin-yang sect and lurked inside. Although we are not afraid of the yin-yang, We must avoid becoming a frightened bird. That's right, I came here in compliance with the order from the summit, not to directly declare war. They discussed, their figures looming. Suddenly one of them listened carefully and suddenly said, "There is something going on." With a sudden sound, several other figures disappeared in front of his eyes. This person, on the other hand, was enjoying his free time and was watching the video in the guest room. Any waiter or powerful person who passed by would think that this person was just an ordinary traveler paying homage to the yin-yang sect. As for those shadowy ghostly figures, few people know whether they just appeared are their real bodies or some kind of phantom-like clones. And just when this person thought that his clothes were perfect, a horrifying sound that sounded like a ghost came from his ears. "Your Excellency, it's a good idea, but it's too hidden." The strong man dressed as a traveler suddenly looked back like a frightened bird. He saw that the subspace beside him was easily torn open, and a turtle creature with its hands behind its back and a calm face walked out of it step by step. This person's voice was neither slow nor fast, as if he was talking to an old friend. But after seeing this face, the expression of the strong traveler who had always remained calm changed completely. Yin and yang. It was actually this person who came to the door in person. But he is just a galaxy-level man. Although there are rumors that he defeated the territory lord level, God knows whether he used external means. He is also a galaxy-level powerhouse, and is good at hiding and assassination. As long as he is not killed with one blow, he will always be safe. There is a way to escape. Let me try to see how you, the master of the yin-yang sect, can do it. He was not afraid and stepped forward. However, after yin-yang stepped out of the subspace, his old face was still so calm and clear, as if he had everything under control. Following the opponent's move, yin-yang was as cold as ice, and Shiren raised one of his paws. Seal up. The fifth floor of subspace. The giant mosquito body silently witnessed the battle of clones, and then nodded secretly. The clone obtained a new array technique that he developed based on the big data reported recently by the yin-yang sect disciples. Sealing a first-level powerhouse in the galaxy is as simple as eating and drinking. The clone of yin-yang is extremely suitable for the power of the formation. I believe it will become one of several powerful clones in the future. Jia Yan has several powerful clones under his command, and they are the kind of clones that have been given opportunities and cannot be created at will. First of all, the strongest one is naturally the Black God clone, followed by Yin and Yang, and then there is another level, such as the Beggar clone, the Taoist clone, etc., who have performed amazingly in the created world. They are all powerful ones that can be encountered but cannot be sought. The clone. And if yin-yang continues to receive the bonus from the power of the formation, his appearance is similar to that of the master of formation medicine, and his mental outlook is also extremely consistent. He should have the most terrifying power of the formation among all his clones. In the future, he will face a senior master head-on. Domain owners all have a chance. As for the traveler that the yin-yang clone is arresting. Tisk, tisk. There are quite a few Zing-level people. I didn't expect that this small yin-yang sect, a force that didn't even have a star-level figure on the surface before, would actually attract so many comrades. Jia Yan smiled sarcastically. No wonder even the clones Yin and Yang couldn't find any trace of these guys. They turned out to be such a terrifying group of strong men. Not to mention Yin and Yang, even if Leda went all out to search, he would not be able to find them without exposing their strength to these guys. Leda is a real mid-level star, and it is easier to find a clone of the same level than a clone whose actual energy is less than the first-level star. What I said just now shows that besides them, there are other powerful forces that have sneaked into the yin-yang section. I have to say that these forces are quite careful. There are so many galaxy-level people, and they are so cautious in their words and actions. Jia Yan couldn't help but like him. The powerful spies of this family or possibly several factions clearly have the power to destroy the Yin-Yang sect, and they still act like this, which shows that they attach great importance to the Yin-Yang sect, far from treating the Yin-Yang sect as an ordinary force in the backward star field. It means they must have other information, but this information. Jia Yan nodded. It seems that that person took action after all. I thought the recent events had nothing to do with this person. But what does this person want to do? No matter how much Jia Yan thought about it, he could not imagine that person's thinking, and he always felt it was a bit absurd and unruly. Oh, that's all. Since this person is acting like a monster again, I'll take action as soon as I see it. Jia Yan casually looked at the current central area of the Yin-Yang sect where the Yin-Yang star was the main force. No matter what tricks those guys want to do, if they have the backing of their own strength, he won't believe that they can still pull off tricks. The lower level of territory lord, to a certain extent, has already reached the level where they can do whatever they want. There is no need to worry about the younger generation. At least you don't have to worry about them doing tricks under your nose. Master, this is. On this day, the disciple in charge of punishment, Ryan, saw his master Yin Yang personally escorting an inconspicuous creature into the detention center. The Yin and Yang are magnificent, and the expression is calm. This person is an outside spy lurking in our Yin Yang sect, and his strength is at the peak of the primary level of Zeng. Ryan was startled suddenly, and his breathing stopped for a long time. He looked straight at the unattractive creature and found that it was only the size of a weak person, roughly 2 or 3 meters in size. If it were thrown into a pile of ordinary creatures, it would be completely submerged. His strength was completely blocked, not even a trace was revealed. No matter how you looked at it, he didn't look like a top being. Master, is he really a galaxy-level person? Why would a galaxy-level person come to our Yin-Yang sect to be a spy? Ryan's mouth felt dry. Galaxy level. The Zinc level has long been plotting against the Yin-Yang section. When the master is away, the Yin-Yang sect can be destroyed. But the master is really strong. A first-level existence in the galaxy was captured without making any movement. It shows that the master's strength is still so unfathomable. Humph, Yin-Yang, you should also know how powerful a being that we and others at the galaxy level can control will be. I hope you understand, otherwise without us waiting for revenge, that person can easily let the forces from all directions surround and suppress your little Yin-Yang section. Then don't blame me for not making it clear to you and others in advance. Ryan glanced at the creature fiercely and slapped it away, causing the creature to stumble. This was Ryan's first time playing at the galaxy level, and it felt great. What nonsense! Since Master dares to arrest you, he is not afraid of the so-called existence behind your back. Just get out and be interrogated. Ryan threw the creature into the prison and looked at his master behind him worriedly. Don't worry, he has been trapped by his master. All you need to do is treat him as an ordinary creature. He can't escape. Yes. Ryan was overjoyed upon hearing this. But what kind of strength does the master have? He can even block a galaxy-level power. He mused. I'm afraid it's also the power of the formation. After all, he has also learned the power of the formation for a month or two. Although the progress is not fast, he can still feel the strong feeling of being blocked by the formation on the galaxy level. It turns out that the power of the formation is so terrifying that even the peak of the primary level of the galaxy can be locked to death. He secretly clicked his tongue. After Yin Yang sent this powerful man to the prison, he walked into the subspace without looking back, and behind him came the words "Send Master respectfully" from Ryan. Send away Yin and Yang. Ryan ordered several jailers who were specialized in torture to come and ask them to use their expertise to ask something from the mouth of the first-level powerhouse in the galaxy. Remember, the galaxy-level body is extremely terrifying. You don't have to worry about killing it. Just do it as freely as possible. If you ask what is going on, you will be rewarded. Ryan knew that since Master sent people here, he must be counting on the professionals here, otherwise he might as well do the torture himself. Then he would do things beautifully and let the so-called first-level powerhouse of the galaxy know exactly what his parents were wearing. Walked out of the place of punishment. Facing him were several other disciples of the Yin-Yang sect. I've met Senior Brother Ryan. The beast has become whiter and whiter, and what is even more strange is that on the unicorn thunder horn above his head, in addition to the flashing thunder and lightning light all the time, there are also several rings of azure color. Hello, Junior Brother. Junior Brother must have learned a new formation. This talent is really enviable to Senior Brother. No, it's just a beginner. If Senior Brother hadn't been busy with things, he would have learned to this level. What the beast said was nothing more than words of comfort. The power of the formation Dao superimposed on the Yin and Yang Dao, the requirements for talent are already at a terrifying level. More than 90% of the Yin-Yang sect disciples have been expelled recently. Ryan, the third Senior Brother who seemed to be a true disciple but whose actual talent was only average, eventually fell into the second stage. It seemed that Senior Leda asked him to relax for a few days, but in fact Leda had already given up on him. Therefore, Ryan is really envious of this Junior Brother. By the way, Junior Brother, you should be careful these days. Master just arrested a galaxy-level spy and came to me. Maybe there are other galaxy-level spies in our section, although these guys are unlikely to be here. Master's hands are banging, but it is still possible to drag several of our direct disciples to die together before death, so don't be impulsive. Galaxy level? How is it possible that our sect still has a galaxy level from outside? After hearing this, Beast's behavior was the same as Ryan's before. First he was in disbelief, and then he realized that this was what his master said, and it was definitely not wrong. His eyes flickered for a moment, he nodded, and after a few words, he went to Shiyuan and left immediately. However, Ryan forgot that Beast seemed to have grown up for decades, but according to the age in the starry sky, this Junior Brother was just a child. The race of unicorns in their 30s and 40s cannot even be described as young people, they are almost like young children. So he is also quite out of touch. In the blink of an eye, what the Senior Brother said fell on deaf ears, or rather not on deaf ears, but as bragging rights. Junior Sister Edisha, Junior Sister Xiao Yuer, do you know? Recently, a galaxy-level spy appeared in the sect. Shall we go find the spy? The pure white unicorn descended from the sky and arrived in the hinterland of the Yin-Yang sect, outside the building specifically for direct disciples. Spy? Okay, Brother Beast, I'm going to catch the spy. As soon as he finished speaking, the childish voice of an excited girl came from inside. A small pink fish with pink makeup flew out. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3072. Regarding Beast's proposal, Edisha's calm big data mind could have made a reasonable judgment. But unexpectedly, she did not decide to refuse, but went ahead to carry out this dangerous move. The three little kids happily left the residence of the core disciples and wandered around the central star area of the Yin-Yang sect. The Yin-Yang sect is no longer the Wuxiaomon it was when it was first founded. The entire central star region encompasses the vast starry sky including the Yin-Yang star. A large amount of external interstellar matter is wrapped in black curtains. The central area spreads out to 1,000,000 kilometers and is prosperous. Incomparable. In such a large area with tens of billions of people, we can't find it. A few little kids were wandering around the outside world, and countless people around them knew them and saluted respectfully. Don't worry, let's just hang out. This is called luring a snake out of its hole. Editha smiled wisely and slyly. Beast was startled, and then he nodded in realization. It is indeed the resourceful junior sister Edisha. I understand what you said. Yeah, Xiao understands too. The silver tongue comes out of the hole. Xiao Yuer proudly made a gesture of understanding. Far away from these three little dots, a huge and terrifying spiritual force enveloped millions of kilometers in radius. The area controlled by the mental power of the lower-level territory lords is far beyond the imagination of ordinary strong men. Jia Yan shook his head with a half-smile, and the shaking of the giant mosquito's head could cause turmoil in a large subspace. This Edisha, I'm afraid she has already guessed my real identity. She should be using Poxia Donkey to help me investigate the purpose and identity of the intruder as soon as possible. Edisha was not an impulsive child. In other words, she is a unique child, and she cannot make major mistakes. So Jia Yan immediately knew that this little guy went out with two disciples with extraordinary identities, and he was afraid that he was changing directions to help him see things from the perspective of those who are hiding. Having been caught by a member of the same profession who was at the top of the first level of the galaxy, they must be anxious and even frightened. But they must not be willing to leave. In this case, keeping the three young disciples walking majestically on the street in their hands is their biggest priority. Even if you don't catch them, you can still make innuendos. Someone is bound to come to Edisha and the others. Your Excellency, these three disciples, a batch of good products have arrived in our village recently. I wonder if you are interested in coming to take a look. There were many stall holders or shopkeepers on the street soliciting business from Edissa and others, but Edissa was the only one who showed interest in the shopkeeper who said the above words. Okay, we just want to see where there are suitable things. Just lead the way. Thank you, Your Excellency, my disciples. With your presence here, our village will surely flourish. The power of the person who claimed to be the shopkeeper was so obscure that Edisha and the others could not distinguish his appearance. However, at a glance at Jia Yan's true form in the distance, it was clear that this person was also a first-level powerhouse in the galaxy. Jia Yan didn't notice it until this person appeared in front of Edisha and others. This is not because Jia Yan is not strong now, but because among tens of billions of people, investigating and testing each other's hidden power one by one is also an extremely long and energy-consuming task for the lower-level domain owners. It's not that Jia Yan can't do the investigation, but there is not enough time and there is no need. At this moment, he walked in front of Edisha and others, and Jia Yan screamed out his strength. Tisk, tisk, little Edisha, you have really made a great contribution. There is no need to say anything else, just that Editha has seduced another Zinged novice to show up. This achievement is enough for Jia Yan to praise. The three children followed step by step behind the galactic junior powerhouse who claimed to be the manager of the manor. Entering a manor 4,000 to 5,000 kilometers away from the bustling streets. In the Yin-Yang sect area, the land with the highest price is naturally the core area of Yin-Yang Star, and the starry sky spread around the Yin-Yang Star is also very valuable. It can own a manor hundreds of kilometers long, which shows how strong this manor is. What a big house! 3 disciples have received the prize. Inside are our goods. Please come in and take a look. The investigation is not urgent. Let's see if there is anything interesting first. The children entered the manor seemingly without any intention. Buzz. As they entered the manor, there was a slight mental vibration on the surface of the entire manor. In a bustling area filled with people, these tiny energy fluctuations have no chance of even inducing induction by nearby guards. The opponent's hiding ability is extremely strong. Beastmaster immediately felt something was wrong. He looked behind him cautiously and saw that the escape route behind him was blocked by some kind of spiritual power. Trap? Bad. Beast finally came to his senses, and for a moment he was frightened and angry. He looked at the 2 junior sisters with a fierce look in his eyes. The two younger junior sisters were brought out by him personally. As a senior brother, he has the responsibility to bring the junior sisters back, even if it costs his own life, he must do it. This is the teacher-sect friendship that the Yin-Yang sect has upheld to this day, and it is also the foundation of the entire Yin-Yang section. It has now been engraved into the hearts of all disciples. Junior sister, you go, I'll hold them back. Before Beast finished speaking, he suddenly felt a surge of energy that made him tremble all over, covering his body, causing his words to get stuck in his throat and unable to speak. Haha, you're three direct disciples, you are really easy to trust others. You should try your best to learn your lessons in the future. The shopkeeper's aura suddenly increased, breaking through the venerable level aura that was originally exposed outside, and flew directly to the galaxy level. Beast had a back and forth fight with Xiao Yuer, but now he was facing a serious Zing level man, and his strength alone suppressed him. Ma's face was so red that he couldn't speak at all. Shopkeeper, this is too bad to say. Whether these three disciples can leave the village today is another matter. Your teaching is useless. That's true. Several more figures walked out, each displaying a terrifying and powerful force that shook the heaven and earth. Star, galaxy level, as expected, senior brother is right. There are so many galaxy levels hidden in our yin-yang section. Beast's heart was pounding with fear, and his eyes were filled with fear for a moment. A galaxy level person had already belonged to the destruction sect before the yin-yang sect master showed up. But now there were actually as many as 5 powerful men displayed in front of him, and they were all galaxy level. With this ability, the entire backward starry sky is enough to be overthrown and ruled by them. But they are hiding within the yin-yang section. What do they want to do? Puff. Just when the beasts were frightened and horrified, one of the 3 little kids who had been suppressed and unable to move by several galaxy-level powerhouses suddenly twisted his small figure. Like a swimming fish, she found a glimmer of hope from the oppressive forces from all directions. She nimbly got out of the gaps between several powerful pressures, and Shiren stepped out of the pressure range. Junior sister Adisha. Beast's eyes became dull. He had known for a long time that junior sister Adisha was a genius who could fiercely fight against the intermediate level stellar brother with the primary strength of the stellar. But she never expected that she could still move calmly under the power of several elementary level galaxies. This is no ordinary little girl. Even Xiao Yuer struggled desperately, but her strength was too weak. She struggled several times, panting, and sprayed colorful bubbles from exhaustion. Beast blushed a little because he couldn't even struggle. After trying it just now, he chose to resign himself to his fate and be controlled by the strong man. No wonder the 2 junior sisters are so valued by Master. It turns out that not only are they talented, but their mentality when facing strong men is far more mature than him. Needless to say, Editha didn't need to mention that Xiao Yuer grew up as a superstar, and following Jia Yan's adventures in various places in the past 2 years, she had probably seen more powerful people than the few galaxy-level people in front of her. What could she be afraid of? This yin-yang sect disciple, if you don't want to die, please don't move. Suddenly, Adisha's body froze, and she was suppressed by the shopkeeper using even more powerful force. After all, it is galaxy level. If it is true, little Adisha cannot turn it out of his palm. Adisha nodded. She didn't really want to escape, let alone arouse the other party's anger. She just wanted to show her strength and try some skills. Now that she has achieved her goal, she is still calm and composed, becoming the leader of the 3 disciples calmly, and asked calmly, "Who are you, and what is the purpose of bringing us here?" 5 galaxy-level experts, you look at me, I look at you. The shopkeeper, as the person in charge, spoke first. This is not what your disciple is asking. We are in control of your lives now, so you only need to answer my questions. As for the questions you asked, we will not answer them at all. Editha's big eyes were twinkling. She nodded and then said, "Whatever you want to ask, just let me tell you. They definitely don't know as much as I do. I already knew your identity. Your resourceful Highness Edisha, I believe what you said is true, so we will ask you. I don't know that a few days ago, your sect master arrested one of us galaxy level due to misunderstanding. He is now. Where are you being held?" Edisha was not surprised at all. However, Beast was startled and realized that these people were exactly the people they wanted to go out to investigate. He winked wildly at Edisha, who had her back turned to the White Unicorn's senior brother, so there was no way she could sense his signal. But Edisha didn't give a straightforward reply. He just said in a nonchalant understatement, "We don't know where that senior is now, because other senior brothers and masters are doing this, and we are still young." The shopkeeper and others looked at each other and nodded calmly. If Edisha blurted out the name of the place, they would have doubts. If they were the ones taking the lead in a similar incident, it would be impossible to involve the children, so it was natural that Edisha and the others were unaware of the situation. "Is that so? It seems that we have asked the wrong person. However, your three disciples, you and Binks, are smart, and you must have some clues. In addition, we also have some doubts about matters related to Yin Yang sect and Yin Yang Dao. If you want to ask the three of you for advice, please feel free to give me some advice." The shopkeeper looked amiable and waved his arms, taking the three disciples to his side. During this time, Beast was so nervous that his eyes were about to burst. He struggled desperately and even thought about self-destruction. However, in the hands of a junior strong man from the galaxy, his mere venerable level strength could not make a difference. But what is surprising is that little Edisha, who seems to be calm, and who should have some skills, behaves like a real child throughout the whole process, as if she was frightened, and allowed the other party to take pictures of herself and others. Arriving next to the first-level powerhouses from several major stars, the pressure suddenly increased by more than one level. Even Edisha's face tightened, as if it was difficult to resist. As expected of a disciple of the Yin-Yang sect, he can still remain calm despite the pressure from us. A few smiling people praised him and led the three of them into the manor. There is a unique world in this manor. They believe that regardless of whether Edisha and others really know the inside story, they can search out any memory of the other party. The strong have countless tricks against the weak. When Edisha and the others fell into this trap, their fate was already decided. You don't need to be nervous. As a disciple of the Yin-Yang sect and a direct disciple, your status is still somewhat useful. As long as you cooperate, we will not kill you. The shopkeeper comforted them with gentle words, fearing that Beast would find a way to blow himself up, in which case they would lose a trump card. There are 3 direct disciples, and judging from the information obtained, the 2 little girls among the 3 are not just direct disciples of the Yin-Yang sect. It may even be the orthodox personal transmission of Onmyedo. They didn't understand the difference between the identities of orthodox direct disciples for the time being. Judging from the fragmented intelligence system, they were definitely not ordinary. Therefore, they were destined to be unable to kill these disciples. The affairs of the Yin-Yang sect were far from being as simple as they imagined. Several first-level stars were complacent and thought the mission was simple, but after a fellow star disappeared quietly, they soon felt the horror of it. Now, let me take over your affairs. After Edisha and others were taken to the deepest courtyard of the manor, a galaxy-level man came out of the mist with a joking smile. Search for books. This person's whole body is like a boiling sea of spirit, and his power is surging. Although he is still stuck in the primary stage of the galaxy, he has already reached the peak of the primary stage of the galaxy. Judging from the way his power is expressed, he should be a strong person in terms of mental power. Surrounding the entire manor, the terrifying spiritual power that enveloped the manor seemed to be vaguely intertwined with it. The defense and twisted layout of the manor must have come from this person. 3 children, you are quite tired now. You need to have a dream. Accompanied by the illusory and real words of this powerful spiritual man, the 3 young Onmyeto disciples gradually became confused. One of the conventional methods used by mentally strong people, hallucination. Under his methods, the power of hallucinations is almost as real. Regardless of the 3 direct disciples whose strength is far lower than his, even those of the same level may become conscious under the influence of the hallucinations exerted by him. It is unstable and its strength is greatly reduced. But, Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3073. The mentally powerful man's eyes were suddenly surprised. All he saw was a pair of crystal clear eyes, looking at him calmly. Little Edisha seemed unaffected, seeing through the hallucinatory confusion, and met the other party's calm eyes with a pair of swaying moves. You're not under the influence of hallucinogens. That's impossible. The mentally powerful man was stunned, his eyes extremely curious. For him, a weak star-level existence, let alone using hallucinogenic skills, even if he doesn't use it, just looking at the other person can cause him to fall into endless hallucinations. But this little girl is. Edisha shook her head slightly and sighed pitifully. Edisha doesn't know what kind of hallucination it is. I don't know what hallucinations are. Is there such a special race? Is there any existence that is born without the control of hallucinations? The other party just thought about it and nodded unconsciously. In the universe, there are all kinds of strong people, and apart from the absolute destructiveness of physical destruction, other skills may have races that naturally suppress you, and hallucinogenic skills are no exception. But he didn't expect that the little girl could be immune to Tang Tangxing's elementary hallucinogenic skills. After all, no matter how strong a race is, there is an upper limit to the level of immunity. Interesting, little girl, if you are willing to explain it properly, I can intercede on your behalf and practice with me in the future. The mentally powerful man looked at Edisha and made no secret of his intentions. Edita's immunity talent is exactly what he wants to study, and it may contain the possibility of further improving his mental power. As for the information or not, he actually didn't need Edisha to tell him. The other 2 yin-yang sect disciples who fell into the illusion were enough to reveal what he wanted. I'm sorry, Grandpa, I can't explain it. Editha shook her head innocently, looked at the 2 senior brothers and sisters beside her who were trapped in hallucinations, and then at the strong man who trapped them with his hallucination skills. Grandpa, can you let them go? Otherwise you will regret it. The other party laughed dumbly. Why is it that I regret it? Shouldn't it be you who regret it? If I had known now, I shouldn't have trusted my friends in the first place. Editha shook her head like a rattle and said very innocently, if I don't believe you, how can I find your lair? In an instant, the mentally strong man suddenly looked back at Edisha like a frightened bird. Little girl, what do you mean? Edisha spread her hands and said, that's what it means. Edisha has said it, but Grandpa still can't understand it. Stop pretending. The other party's expression became ferocious. At the same time, he looked around with some suspicion. A terrifying power far greater than the hallucinogenic power instantly enveloped Edisha's body. He was slightly relieved. Regardless of whether what the other party said was sensational, but now his mental power controlled the little girl. If something really went wrong, he would crush the little girl to death and reduce her bones to ashes. The thought deep in my heart that I could subdue this little girl just now was no longer there. After all, life comes first. Oh, Grandpa, you are not a good person. Do you actually want to kill Edisha? Edisha is not afraid in the face of danger, her big eyes are dazzling, and there is a kind of childlike innocence shown in them. Even now, this kid is still talking nonsense. The mentally powerful man's eyes were fierce, locked on the little girl in front of him, and said fiercely, tell me quickly, what do you mean by what you said? If you don't explain it properly, I will crush you little thing to death. Ah! Edisha pretended to scream, her voice was very fake. The star-level spiritual power was secretly weird, but suddenly he heard Edisha continue to pretend to cry and shout, "Master, someone wants to kill Edisha, someone wants to kill Xiao Yuer, please come and save me." Editha's screams were full of pity and tenderness. People who don't know her background may be deceived by her pity attitude. This little guy is really good at playing. In the distance of the subspace, Jia Yan's real body did not even have the thought of approaching this area. He just smiled lightly and displayed a small amount of mental power with a flat response. When it comes to mental power, although Jia Yan cannot be said to be a master of mental power, he is at least a talented person with mental power. Compared with a strong mental power hallucinogen, his mental power can definitely be said to be at the level of a great witch. When the little witch saw the big witch, the slender spiritual power broke through the layers of defenses and penetrated directly into the mind of the powerful spiritual powerhouse who was holding Editha and ready to kill her anytime and anywhere. Regardless of whether it is a top existence in terms of mental power, in front of the lower level of the territory lord, it is like a fragile layer of paper, which can be broken with a poke. Puff. The sound of pieces of paper breaking could be heard faintly. Editha looked at the being whose eyes lost all luster and gradually fell to the ground. She shrugged and whispered, "Edisha said, don't harm others. If you harm others, you are not a good boy." Xiao Yuer and Beast woke up from the hallucination, and saw Xiao Yuer in high spirits, running to Edissa with a shout, and said happily, "It's amazing, Sister Edissa, you were transforming into me just now. There's magic. But the question you asked me, sister, is so difficult that Xiao Yuer can't even answer it." Editha giggled and hovered in the air with Xiao Yuer for a few times, smiling without saying anything. Among the colorful fish bubbles, Xiao Yuer and Edisha looked at the beast who had also woken up. They saw the senior brother with a solemn expression and looked around in an extremely ugly manner. Finally, they were stunned to see the beast lying on the ground dead. That mentally strong person. Junior sister Edisha, what's going on? It's our master. Editha stood up and looked at people with her nostrils as if she was very proud. The little fish also raised its head and looked proud. Your master, the master is here, huh? Your master? The beast's first reaction was to be overjoyed, thinking it was the enigmatic master Yin Yang coming, but he soon realized that Edisha was talking about our master. Shouldn't their master also be Yin Yang master? Why does it feel like listening to Edisha speak as if Yin Yang is not their master? Could it be that there is someone else? Haha, senior brother Beast is petrified. Don't worry, master is here. It's not dangerous at all. Brother Beast, there's no need to be afraid or wet your pants. Who peed their pants? I mean, no one can pee their pants, okay. Where is the master you are talking about? Edisha doesn't know either. It might be somewhere far away, but the master has taken action, so it'll be fine. Let's go out and have a look. The beast's unicorn eyebrows showed a slight hesitation. Why does it sound like the master of Edisha and his wife is a bit unreliable? There are several galaxy-level beings here, and even their master Yin Yang comes in person and dare not say that they can eliminate all the enemies here calmly. Can Editha and their mysterious master do it? When Beast and Edisha walked out of the backyard where they were trapped, Beast fell into a long silence. He was stunned and speechless. Because on the starry sky and ground in the outside world, there are several first-level powerhouses of the galaxy lying leisurely. These first-level powerhouses of the galaxy are the ones who kidnapped them here. If Beast hadn't known that there was no need for the elementary beings of galaxy to deceive him, a mere venerable level, he might have thought that these people were teaming up with the two junior sisters to play him. Junior sister, is your master Yin Yang master? Yes. No. Editha nodded and shook her head mysteriously, always shaking her head, making people wonder whether she was affirming or denying it. The horn in the center of the beast's head burst out several circles of blue arcs. He was about to go berserk. Why can't we make it clear whether it is or not? She lied to all the senior fellow students, and this little junior sister Edisha is nothing. Edisha was wronged. Her answer was absolutely correct. The yin and yang is both Jia Yan and not Jia Yan, so her reply is actually impossible to fault. Eat, eat, eat. No matter how stupid Xiao Yu is, she should understand the current situation. Brother Beast has been tricked, so she showed a bright smile. Well, anyway, I'm trying to contact the outside world now. Let's be careful here. Yeah. Beast gave up and continued to inquire. He knew that Adita seemed ignorant, but she was a clever girl. It was almost impossible to get words out of her. As for Xiao Yu, he even wondered whether the youngest junior sister understood the current situation. They had just escaped from the tiger's mouth, and this little guy was already strutting around other people's houses looking for fun things. Too much heart. The beast contacted and received feedback quickly. It seems that with the destruction of this group of strong men, the shielding function that isolated this place from the outside world was also destroyed. Immediately, people on guard duty nearby entered the manor. What? This manor actually looks like this? It didn't look like this last time we came here. Hey, who was the one who approved this manor? I want to investigate their crimes, but they missed such an important point of doubt. Groups of people rushed into the manor, and then they all looked ugly. As the guardians of this area, this group of people on guard duty even missed such a manor. This is a serious duty and will definitely be severely criticized by the superiors. If the consequences are serious, they may be even more serious. Charges. A few disciples are here. Great, they are fine. This group of people on guard quickly found the 3 direct disciples on top of a pile of corpses of strong men. Seeing that none of their cold hairs were injured, the leader suddenly let out a long sigh. You must know that if there is a problem with one of his direct disciples, then his sin will be great, not to mention that he belongs to the governor of this area. Even if he did not prevent and control this area, the commander of the Central Starry Sky Garrison of Nyodo would definitely be accused if he was implicated. Now that everything was safe, he relaxed a little. But this is galaxy level? Why is there still a galaxy level in our yin-yang sex station? Suddenly, the garrison commander who had reached the primary stage of star existence had an extremely ugly expression. Several galaxy-level people fell to the ground, and several of them may have lost signs of life. This is the galaxy level. In an instant, he felt the cold air rising from the soles of his feet. He looked at the 3 direct disciples in front of him who were unharmed and had a good time, and then at the group of galaxy-level beings who died. For a moment, he felt like he was falling into a dream. Middle. The yin-yang sect has become stronger recently. But even he, a middle-level and high-level person, had never heard that the yin-yang sect was so powerful that it could easily kill such a large number of primary warriors from the galaxy. Then do we still need a group of stars like them to be high-ranking officials? I'm afraid that even the basic level of galaxy may not be able to become a high-level force with this kind of strength. He was confused. No need to guess, these are galaxy-level powerhouses. However, we were lucky enough to be rescued by a senior from Yin-Yang Dao. Otherwise, I would have been left to our own devices. You take them back and hand them over to senior brother Ryan. Yes. The stellar star quickly nodded and bowed without questioning anything. Although their group of senior leaders have never had any thoughts of opposing the disciples, they still have the kind of magnanimity carried by the strong in their bones towards the disciples who are not stronger than them. They think that if they are strong enough, they can at least compete with them. The disciples are on equal terms. But now, a group of corpses of the galaxy's juniors are right in front of them. No matter how strong and confident they are at the star level, they will never be able to have the slightest confidence on par with their direct disciples. It seems that he is not dead yet. What is this state? After the star-level executive used the power of brain waves to wrap up all the galaxy-level corpses, his expression changed again. Of course they are not dead. The senior kept his hands. Otherwise, how could we pry out the conspiracy represented by this latent incident from their mouths? Good guy. The star-level stuck out his tongue. Stunned but not killed, and even fell into a state of suspended animation. This shows that the shooter is much stronger than the first-level galaxy. After flying up, this first-level star couldn't help but look at the familiar yin-yang sect realm again. A place that was quite familiar suddenly became mysterious and unfamiliar. Is our yin-yang sect so powerful? For the first level of Lianzing, sneaking into our sect to be a spy is no longer qualified. He was confused for a moment. As a member of the yin-yang sect, he was quite conscientious before, but now he has climbed to a relatively high-level position. But even I, it seems, maybe, also despised this sect. As a disciple of Deacon, why don't I know that our yin-yang sect is so terrible? He muttered. This Deacon missed a key point. It was Beast who told him that it was the seniors of the yin-yang Dao who took action, not the seniors of the yin-yang sect. Even if he found out about this, he would just think that the Beast had changed the yin-yang sect's explanation. Nowadays, most disciples don't know that besides yin-yang sect, there is also yin-yang Dao.